You've got to go dig those holes, dig 'em up on, dig it up on, yeah, dig it up on, dig it up on, yeah. Hey, I was just testing the audio. No singing here.
Oh, I heard that too.
No, you didn't hear anything. That was just non-important audio cues to prime up the microphones. That's all it was.
I'm tired of this neon crew.
Well, that's too damn bad.
Well, excuse me.
There's a line after I said that's too damn bad where I was going to say you keep podcasting.
Yeah.
But that was, I think, as good of an intro as we will get.
Perfect.
And I don't know if I can make my voice do that a second time.
Well, that's too damn bad.
I like that.
Yeah, dude, that used to be McLean.
I'm Kyle. People are clicking off this episode like as soon as it starts.
Yeah.
Oh my god,
dude! So Holes, and we'll talk about more about it. But that's a funny line because like me and my brother had seen Holes like a million times, right?
Yeah.
And it was probably 8-10 years ago where we just had it on. We were both hanging out in the living room at my parents and nothing going on. And we were talking about the movie. And then that line popped up and just bust out laughing. That is it's such like a throwaway like exchange
and
when you're young.
It's such an out-of-pocket reaction too.
Yeah, exactly.
A little girl saying that she's tired of digging in the desert.
Of digging, Grandpa.
Well, that's too damn bad.
That's too damn bad. And his face, his whole body, like, it gets transformed. Like muscles, just everything hinges up. Probably the most athletic that guy's been in 20 years.
Right. I have a question about that specific scene with that actor, but we can get into it later. Just don't let me forget.
Oh, okay.
It is one of those exchanges that not only is it so quotable, but it applies to so many things just in your life as you get older.
Oh, dude.
So like anytime you're at work or like if you're doing yard work with your spouse or like anything involving tiresome labor, if someone says I'm tired of this, Grandpa, you automatically know how to respond to that.
I want to make sure I got it. It's an effigy, right?
I thought that was the thing that you burnt.
It is, but it's like that. It's often a crude figure used to symbolize someone's dislike or hatred, right?
Yes.
That to me is like a, and I might be using it wrong, but like an effigy that you have in your mind when someone's like anything, like the cashier being like, sorry, we don't have any quarters.
Yeah.
Well, that's too damn bad.
Right. It's just an expression to like just throw out at somebody.
Yeah. I mean, like, I don't know. I've never done it like that, but I have those moments in my head where that literally pops up into my head. And then okay. All right.
Yeah. It's mostly like an innocuous thing. Like every time I've said it, it's been in jest.
Oh yeah.
Like I'm never actually saying that to somebody with that full force of aggression. No, it pops
up in your head though.
It does. It really does.
Like
sometimes.
When that lady sped away today.
Yeah.
It's like, you're not getting my insurance.
Oh, I was saying more than that's too damn bad.
Yeah, I can imagine.
I was more like Mr. Sir chasing after her when Stanley Yelnats takes the truck.
Oh yeah.
That was my character experience.
That's a good one. Yeah.
Unfortunately
left in the dust.
Speaking of dust.
Yes.
Dust in the Wind is a song. And you know what happens in this movie we're about to talk about? Some friendly singing. And of course,
here we go.
What better way to bond with someone through friendship than singing? And that's the movie we're going to be talking about today, Friendship.
So are we ready to hop right into it?
I think so.
All right. Friendship. As the long-awaited friendship, at least for me.
I've been aware of this movie for maybe a year.
Oh, really?
I think so. I remember the poster thinking to myself, oh, Tim Robinson and Paul Rudd. And it was at the time when Tim Robinson was arguably at his most popular in the current sense.
Yes. We'll get into it.
Yes.
2024 film. 2024? Only 2025?
It's probably one of those like festival came out like late last year types of things. Yeah, Boiling Point.
Friendship. Well, I guess we'll say 2024, hour 40.
September 2024 at TIFF.
Yeah, that's anyways. Written, directed by Andrew DeYoung, first time director, screenwriter. This is an A24 film, starring Tim Robinson as Craig. Also tripping me up, there's a Craig Robinson. So every time I talk about this guy, I can't remember if it's Tim or Craig.
It's funny because on Wikipedia it says the film centers on Craig, and then in parentheses it says Robinson.
Oh, does
so
it?
it immediately evokes the image of Daryl from The Office.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like I've been getting tripped up the last week thinking of like trying to remember this guy's freaking name.
Mm-hmm.
Paul Rudd is Austin. The beautiful Kate Mara as Tammy. Jack Dylan Grazer as Steven. And then I think just a whole bunch of people I don't really recognize unless there's anyone in here. Billy, actually, I'll shout out Billy Brick.
Okay, yeah.
As Tony.
The dealer.
The sales attendant.
Yes.
the popular phone store.
The phone dealer, in air quotes. I guess also people know, they usually point out Connor O'Malley because he's the individual that yells at him when he's on the drum set.
Oh, God, that
one
guy's...
scene.
It's... okay.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. And... a whole bunch of other people are in this thing. There's a couple like lines here and there. People that I don't necessarily recognize. So this movie is, starts out. It literally just starts out with, actually they're at a cancer, kind of like a group therapy session, support group probably.
Yeah, so like a support group thing.
And, we find out that Craig's wife has had cancer, and she's kind of going through about how she's coming to terms with everything going on and some of the anxiety, and you can kind of see that Craig is a little out of touch with his wife on stuff. Pardon the pun. Some intimate things get discussed. Like right off the bat, it's going to kind of be there's going to be a lot of pokes here and there, a lot of laughs.
It's a good tone setter for the movie.
Very, very well. Yeah, very apropos. We get back into the house. It's like a day or so later, and we find out that there's been a package delivered to the wrong house, and it's the neighbor's package. So Craig, being the good Samaritan that he is, putting in speed bumps into his neighborhood, brings the package over to who we find out is Austin,
played by Paul Rudd.
And yeah, they have a little banter back and forth. Austin appearing somewhat mysterious, if you will, and later that night finds out that Austin invited him over for drinks. Wife says, you got nothing going on, it'd be good for you. So he goes over there. They have a little adventure. They have a bond. Not well-established relationship, but obviously a budding relationship.
Yeah, there's a rapport.
Yeah, and some things happen, and it goes sideways, and it almost feels like a little bit of a character unraveling at points, as we just get to see kind of what this awkward person will do to save a friendship.
Spoilers for the movie Friendship. So, having been aware of this movie for some time, I was quite interested in how it was going to function as far as tone, because obviously, if you know Tim Robinson and his style of comedy, he's got this show on Netflix called I Think You Should Leave. Mm-hmm. If you haven't watched the actual show, I'm sure you've seen at least some memes or videos.
That's how I know him. That's the only reason why I know him.
There is probably a significant portion of the population that purely knows Tim Robinson only from like Instagram and TikTok clips.
Because I didn't do fucking shit.
Right. The coffin flop skit, for example.
Yeah.
Like that is just everywhere, along with like a litany of other moments, like him going through the drive-thru, ordering 55 tacos, 55 pizzas, 55 burgers, 55 fries.
Yeah.
Like it just shit that is now a part of the zeitgeist.
Yes.
And people are like, wow, this guy is really fucking funny. And not only does he have the comedic timing, he just looks insane. Like he's got this unique look about, because I wouldn't say he's ugly. He's very striking looking. Like,
I'm trying.
I don't think there's anybody else in the world that looks like this dude.
I actually got a buddy that kind of has the same distinguished. Maybe not distinguished. I don't know. It's hard to put it's not average. You know, it's not, you're picking him out of a lineup for sure.
And I love that this movie, it feels like it is so aware of how to use him in this film the most effective way, in that it starts with a shot of Kate Mara in the meeting, and she's speaking very eloquently and seriously. The lighting's really good and soft. It's like shot very well and close up to her face. And then it slowly pans over to him looking at her. And I don't know about you, anytime I see him, I just start laughing. Because
not quite, but
I look at him and I just find his presence funny. Like, he's got that comedic power behind him, kind of like Rowan Atkinson with Mr. Bean, where like as soon as I see this dude, I just can't help but chuckle. Yeah. Like, there is something about him where like this movie knows exactly how to use him, in that like we're gonna drop this ridiculous over the top comedic character in what for more or less is just like a straightforward kind of like family drama movie with like some serious tones going in on it.
It's got like I've had such a hard time with this thing. Like, it's a good comedic narrative. It's weird because it blends a lot of different styles of comedy into this movie while maintaining a narrative throughout. So like more or less you could say family drama. You know, it's
character study.
Yes. Yeah, so this is the first time I've seen this guy. I've watched a couple, like I'm part of, the 99% of having seen him on Reels and TikToks or whatever. I don't do TikTok, but
right.
Facebook
Neither
stuff.
do I. Yeah.
So, I thought I'm not like you where I see him and burst out laughing, but he's got some very physical chops around him about knowing the environment, what's being talked about, and how to navigate in a very comedic tone with just his presence.
Like choosing the funniest option possible. Whether it's like the way he says something, his facial expression, like when he chooses not to speak, just giving like vacant, dead, dumb stares at things.
He's it's not like dumb. It's very quizzical. Like, he's got it's very quizzical, I'm not sure what you're like where this is leading to in a very like
I think he
straightforward manner.
I think he can weaponize how intelligent he can look in any given scene.
That's what I'm saying. Like like we're on the same page about his prowess. Is like his physical comedy is there. It's not like Jim Carrey where he's making all these like dumb faces and distorting his face and to make like it's very much like his wife's talking about some physical sensations, and just his like from like complete understanding of I know I get where you're at, to then the sudden realizing he's a directly one involved with this happening.
She's been saying how she hasn't had an orgasm in years.
Yeah, and he's
like, just kind of like
yeah, it goes from like I'm here for you. Wait a second. Like
wait.
Like, is this directly affecting me or am I? And it's also like, it's not necessarily he understands he's part of it. Like, he's like, there's multiple factors in that equation. I just happen to be one, not the only one,
It's like subtlety is all but kind of lost on this guy. And then when he finally does kind of figure out what it's about and what it's like pertaining to, he says the most ridiculous out of pocket shit, such as, well, I'm orgasming just fine.
Yeah, so some of his comedy style, though, I think it works in the sketch realm. In this realm, I was like, this doesn't fit. Some of it doesn't fit the tone.
I think it works because the movie is fighting against him as a character. It feels like. To me, that's what makes it interesting. I love it when movies or shows do this thing where they introduce a character or a set of characters, have them be as out there, ridiculous, like just over the top as possible, and have everybody else around them be regular people for the most part. There's obviously some exceptions in certain scenes of this movie, but I always go back to thinking about Always Sunny in Philadelphia as a prime example of that, where it's like these 5 people are like some of the most despicable human beings ever made. And like they're over the top in how kind of like vapid and vain and insane they are.
Yeah.
But everybody else around them in those episodes is fairly grounded. And to me, that's where a lot of the comedy comes in.
Yeah, I will say always like if it's I don't think it's apples and oranges just because a lot of the landmarks and settings in that show is also somewhat ludicrous. Right. Whereas in this one,
they're like dilapidated ass bar. Yeah.
Yeah. Like in this one, everyone felt very grounded except him, to where it was.
And I love that.
Yeah. But listen, I've had a hard time with where I sit with this thing.
For sure.
Not necessarily like a bad or good, just like how much did I like this versus like, it felt very grounded in reality, and you have this character kind of coming out, and yet it's almost like, anything he does, everyone's it's accepting. It's not out of the norm.
Right. Like, oh, we're kind of used to this guy being so like this.
To some extent, but like the other people that get introduced don't know him like that. And there's a little bit of that's where some of the content comes from, right? The conflict is just how ludicrous he can be, and what it rubs people the wrong way.
Like a big portion of this movie is like Austin and his friends realizing, oh, there's something kind of cracked with this guy.
Yes.
And then that unfolding, and of course the natural progression of him being ostracized.
Yes.
And then the conflict of the movie coming from that.
To some extent, like not definitely with Austin.
Yeah,
he recognizes it, right?
Yeah, because that's where like his focus and obsession is.
Yes,
I probably couldn't give like two shits about the other people in the group,
right? But that's the one thing like so again, I laughed out loud a bunch in this. I thought this movie was very well written, and well acted. Like, don't get me wrong, it was just there's some Tim Robinson stuff that either you like or you don't like, and like it either sticks or doesn't, and some of it didn't stick, but it was mostly like him when he's screaming and shouting and it's like a man child, getting into it. And I think some people like really enjoy that. I don't, but like that's not just him though, which I really appreciated is that he's got more of a comedic chop around him, and that's just one element.
Yeah.
And I was happy to see that wasn't the whole thing. They did have moments of it, and there's actually like the drum scene.
Well, even moments of it where it is like kind of devolving into him either screaming or being like as ridiculous as possible, where he's like stuffing the soap in his mouth.
Yes.
I feel like there's a big difference between scenes like that and scenes like in an Adam Sandler movie. Where, Adam Sandler's like yelling and being over the top, but those movies as a whole are just kind of like on that same wavelength, and that's kind of what makes them a little repetitive to me. Whereas this movie, it's like, oh, he's stuffing the soap in his mouth, going like, I'm such a bad boy. Yeah. Oh, I need to be punished.
That was uncomfortable.
And then they cut to him, and they're all just staring at him.
Yeah.
Like, what the fuck is wrong with this?
It's a reaction that you'd have.
Right. And like, that is where a lot of my appreciation for this movie comes in, is stuff like that, where it's like, if this was any other character that had their faculties about them but was a little bit more like sinister in their intentions, this would be like an actual like A24 thriller film. Yes. Whereas like it's Tim Robinson being dropped in the middle of this thing.
That's the only qualm I have is I'd only seen the trailer for this. I had no idea about it. I just saw the trailer, and the song that they sing when they get together, My Boo, we played that at the wedding. Like, we love that song.
Right.
So I saw the trailer, and they're harmonizing that thing, and I'm like listening. I was like, what song? I know that song. And this was before wedding stuff. Like we were just getting, and so I'm listening, and I was like, oh my God. And I was like, I have to see this film. And the trailer made it sound like there would be something more sinister. Right. So it didn't seem like just, not surface level, but at face value. And so I think that was like one of the qualms I had with it. But like watching it, it doesn't even really necessitate that happening, right? Yeah. Like,
because like it doesn't go like that far. The furthest it gets is like he gets a gun and holds them hostage like a little bit.
Yeah, but even then,
he just kind of scares them. But that's
like, even then, you could tell it. He's like, he doesn't know what he's doing.
Right.
He has no clue. He's still doing this to impress Austin.
Even though he's got the gun, he is not in control.
No.
He's furthest from having any sort of handle on anything.
Yes, exactly. And that's where, that is fun. There's a lot of funny parts of this.
There's a lot going on in this movie. I think one of the big takeaways that I got from it in terms of his relationship with Paul Rudd in this film is that it seems like they made... I like the choice in that they made Paul Rudd's character not idyllic or perfect. Because obviously he's got some flaws too. And I like the way that they kind of not mirror each other, but there is a version of Paul Rudd's character that I could see being like Craig in this movie.
They do have... So it's interesting because it's like this thing I could probably watch this again and take a couple deeper themes out of this. But one of the things that they do a good job mirroring is at least the stress and anxiety that both get from work and having to support, right, and the expectations and the pressure of the world and how they both kind of handle that, right?
Yes, it feels like to me, and I didn't mean to cut you off.
No,
it feels like to me Austin is the version of that character that has social skills, that knows how to navigate relationships and to like hide the parts of himself that are a little more unsavory, such as, you know, his bald, ugly head, or the fact that like he's got this like weird, deep level of like embarrassment and sadness to him that you can kind of infer indirectly with a lot of different things in this movie, like his interactions with the news reporter where she's like chastising him and he's kind of sheepish in that scene. And also when Tim Robinson gets the gun and it's in a box that says storms a coming. Like, okay, well, this guy has some inherent demons that he's dealing with.
Yes. Yeah, no, I did like that. And it was, it's almost like if you split personality, right? Like there is a hole somewhere out there that is both of these guys to a certain extent, you know, and both of them reflect more so of the other side that's not reflected as the character themselves.
Yeah.
No, I really like I like their relationship. It's like a little bit of an examination about what it's like to try to develop bonds later on in life too, and there's a lot of like red herrings in this thing. One of the ones is, you know, it's like you develop a friendship later on in life, right? As a male, like you're supposed to go and you're supposed to have your friends throughout from when you're young, and you just grow with them, and you're all trees in this little park, right? And so if you go to a different park, there's so much that's inferred about like what is the
what's the protocol?
Well, what's the context of the relationship? Yes. You know, like where are we going? And the funny thing is, so like once again, I have no idea where this is going. Like, and this just kicks off like we're into them being friends within the first 10 minutes. Yeah. Right.
Oh, wrong package was delivered. Yeah. You got to go bring it up to the house up there.
Did you notice what Austin's wearing? Paul Rudd's wearing when Craig meets him for the first time?
I don't remember.
He's in these tight ass jeans. He's got a sports jacket on, an Escot on with like button down to the navel, right?
Yeah, he kind of looks like Fred from Scooby-Doo a little bit.
Yeah, a little bit. Yeah, or like like a 70s porno star that's like I dabble wherever, right? Yeah. Like I the first time he pops up, I was like, "Oh, is this going to be a weird relationship?" And they do a good job.
He kind of looks like Scott Bakula from
Boogie Nights.
No, not Boogie Nights.
Oh, well, Bakula's in Boogie Nights, right?
He might be. What the fuck? Candelabra, behind the candelabra.
Yeah. That's what I actually know. It is. That's what I'm thinking when he introduces Matt Damon and Liberace.
Right. He's kind of dressed like him.
That's the exact look. The first time I saw him, that's who I had envisioned, right? And then so he goes over to the house and they get out the the fucking arrowhead, right, and the stone, and he goes into his very deep, earthly, grounded spiritual.
He's staring at it the same way that Howard Ratner stares at the jewel in Uncut Gems.
Yes, which is so it pulls that. But did you hear what he called the stone, or the man that found the stone? And this could be purposeful. It could be accurate. I didn't look it up.
Neanderthal.
Homo erectus.
Oh, yeah.
So he goes, it's Homo erectus. And I'm like, where are we going with this thing? And then they go to the sewer, right? And did you notice this? It looks like a fucking asshole.
Right.
And he's like, we're going in it. So they lay it all out that this is gonna be,
and they're in the forest. They're looking at mushrooms, which are a very phallic shaped thing.
Yes, like the whole thing is like there's some like gay undertones with it, right?
100%.
And then it turns out, and then he's like, I got a wife, and then everything kind of steers back into, oh, he's just a not normal, but he's a family man, right? He's got a wife. He's living he's just living his life,
and it speaks volumes that in this movie, it's a point that his perceived relationship with Paul Rudd, not actual relationship, his perceived relationship with Paul Rudd's character is more of a priority than his relationship with his actual wife and son.
Yes, yeah.
So I don't know. I really enjoy that it emphasizes that. One of the things that I don't want to say I like bump up against the movie for, but I think it starts to wane a little bit when the focus kind of starts to leave his relationship with Austin.
Yeah.
And it becomes more about his relationship with his wife and kid. I kind of liked how passive it was in that, like, they were mostly normal, but they would kind of do weird shit. Like, you guys kiss each other on the lips?
Yeah.
Like stuff like that. Or like, who's Devin? You never listen to me. Like, little shit like that is how, like, that's the most I think I appreciate out of their relationship. And I really like Kate Mara in this movie. I think she's doing a lot of really good things. It's just that when Austin is kind of lifted from the focus of this film is when a little bit of the juice of this movie starts to get lost for me.
And that's they have such a good rapport, and they balance each other so well with their actions and what their identities are where they're kind of striving to, right? Like maybe, and I don't want to say Austin wanted to pull anything from Craig, but Craig definitely envied a lot of how Austin was living, in that lifestyle.
Yes.
That I think once it gets to him and just how he's dealing with relationships in general, you get a little too much Craig, right? Like, to me, it started shifting a little bit into like, all right, we're getting into some more of just him in this, not necessarily sketch comedy, but how he'd handle certain situations.
Right.
How can we make this most comedic? And I'm in the same boat. I mean, I wish there was more of that examination, but they also chopped it off at the head so quickly.
Yeah. Don't get me wrong. I still enjoy that part of the film overall, in that, like,
it's in a good film, I think it's the weakest part.
Right. And I think that his portrayal of, like, just a lonely guy who really just can't make any friends because of how he is.
Yes.
Which is, there's a lot of people, I've been reading about this movie online. There's a lot of people saying that Craig has some form of bipolar disorder with, like, a friendship obsession type of thing going on. Like, there was an official term for it that I can't remember, but it was a very recognizable thing of like, oh yeah, I get that this is a thing that exists, like this friendship fixation that you have with someone. And then when that's severed, it feels like everything is just going wrong in your life. And I enjoy that portrayal of it in the comedic way that it was brought out.
Yeah. I guess I get it.
Right. There's a lot of different things going on in that, like, it is a character study, but it just sort of feels like it is touching on the broader sense of, like, male relationships, and, like, the idea that you touched on it earlier, when you are a man and you're getting older, it feels like it is harder to connect with other men your age. If you didn't grow up with them as a child.
Right.
Because, like, I'll ask you, what percentage of your friends would you say are friends that you've known since you were a kid?
Like, my best friends, and I don't know, I'd say, high school.
Right.
And then after that, it's mostly relationships that I like. Football's a big one for me, and then here and there, but it's not, there isn't someone down the street where I'm going to hang out with.
Right. Like, we didn't become friends until, like, I was in my 20s and you were in your 30s, right? Like, early 30s, maybe late 20s.
Yeah. Yeah, that sounds about right.
Somewhere around there.
Yeah.
And it's one of those moments where, like, it is all, like, just kind of, like, environmental too. Like, we probably wouldn't be friends if we didn't work at the same place.
Well, you'd have no idea.
Right. Have no clue.
Right.
And it's one of those things where, like, if you told me, like, okay, I need you to go out and make a friend right now. Yeah. Like, just make a new friend. Go up to some dude, say, hey, man, you want to hang out? They're probably going to be like, get away from me. I don't know you.
Yeah, it takes a lot. Like, I've had some work relationships where you've like, oh yeah, like let's go do something. But I mean, it especially now because like you just don't have like the free time that you have and being able to go through certain experiences or do certain things. And everyone's formulated with their own opinions. The world isn't so like a canvas. Where you're soaking it all in, you're understanding the environment, you're formulating stuff along with other people that are also formulating and being able to bounce ideas off each other about this and that of the world, right? Everything's kind of set in stone. So a lot of the time with the people that you become friends with are people that there's some common interests with certain things, right?
Yeah.
Because outside of that, everyone is so like, you just start, chiseling out the wood.
Right.
Right.
I don't know if you're also like me in the sense that I feel comfortable where I am at currently within my social stratosphere of relationships.
Yeah.
Because Megan has told me before, oh, we should invite the neighbors because like our neighbors over here, shout out to my neighbors.
Yeah.
If you listen to the podcast, you probably don't even know I do this. You probably think I'm doing some weird porn thing. If my neighbors are around our age and Megan has told me like, oh, we should go invite the neighbors over for dinner. And I think I just told her verbatim, I don't need to make any new friends.
Yeah.
I have plenty of friends.
Yeah.
Like, I'm cool with the friends that I have. I don't need any more. If they keep to themselves, we keep to ourselves. I'm cool with that.
Yeah.
And I told, eventually I did end up, because he asked me a question about like the bushes outside or whatever.
Right.
And I eventually did exchange numbers with him just in case, like, if he needs anything from me or vice versa, we can get in contact with each other. But I think I also told Megan, I said, if I never talk to them and they never talk to me, perfect relationship.
Yeah.
I don't need anything
Sponsor.
beyond that.
Well,
Which is funny because we're actually in the middle of watching Parks and Rec right now.
nice.
I think we just started season 3 like a few days ago.
Hell yeah.
We're a few episodes into that.
Season 3 is the strongest season of my opinion.
Ben Wyatt and Rob Lowe were just
Chris
introduced.
Haverford.
Chris Haverford, yes.
Yeah.
Tom Haverford.
Or no. Chris Traeger.
Yes.
Yeah.
Those two characters were introduced, and then Mark Brandanowitz has kicked off to some other plane of existence.
Yeah, I don't know what he did on that show to piss people off. Or
I don't know if it's
you're
just like
too
to
much.
piss people off. I feel like they just didn't know what to do with him.
He was supposed to be the guy from The Office.
He felt like they want him to be Jim.
Yeah, from The Office, right?
Yeah, you're supposed to be Jim, but then after a while, Jim became on Parks and Rec the most boring version of that character.
He's the lightning rod or whatever, the rod with all the electrons circling around, and then everyone just went like,
he's supposed to be the straight man.
Yeah, why do we need that if no one appreciates him? He's not that funny. Like, we're not doing anything with him, right? We can just make everyone out, or at least Anne. Played by Rashida Jones, will be able to be, a little bit more of the straight-laced one with some outbursts here and there.
And even then, I feel like she's better able to play straight-laced because she also just herself has a fixating personality that you can just gravitate towards. Whereas Mark Brandanowitz was kind of like a wet tissue paper.
Yes.
It's just kind of there and didn't really do much.
I'm in the same boat. But going back to...
Friendship.
Yeah.
Which is the movie we're talking about, not Parks and Rec.
We get off on tangents.
That's fine. It's all good. Maybe people want to know our Parks and Rec thoughts.
Dude, no, there's a point in my life where I could probably, all of season 3, rattle off like 70% of the lines.
Yeah.
Like, Parks and Rec, I gravitated towards that more than The Office.
Speaking of reciting lines, I can't wait to talk about our next movie.
Ooh.
Yeah, the movie, it shifts focus from like his friendship with Austin to like he leaves Kate Mara in the sewers. I do like the notion that like he tries to do the same things that he did with Austin that he perceived as cool, and then she's like, "What the fuck are we doing? Where are we going?"
So I was trying to explain to Jasmine about this. I was like, it's almost like high school where, you had the cool kid smoking cigarettes, driving the Camaro, just kind of living life, right? He had such a grasp on who he was and where he was going and what he wanted to do that common things that common man do don't interest him, right? Or maybe they do, but he's going to take it to the next level. And seeing Craig, just have that, and I would associate it as envy, right? That he could become so detached with the world around him because, you know, his life is manipulating people into using apps.
Yeah.
And figuring out how do we make these people attached and become addicted to, you know, apps. And so he's got to know everything about it. You almost have to be the most plainest person in the world. So you can kind of see like, all right, like if we're going to grab 60% of people, like I got to be this person. And to see Austin living like that was, I think it fascinated him, right?
Yeah.
And
that is true. There was like a nature of his job that kind of, like, once he sees Austin, it sort of like just flips a switch.
Yeah.
And that like, oh, this thing that I'm just kind of like mulling through just becomes so not important.
Yeah, then that's why he was trying to. So, you know, you get the cool kid in high school that would do something. And it's like, I'm going to replicate that. I'm going to do that. But like, you understand there's a certain part of you or your brain or however you think about life is like you just don't have that capacity, right?
Yes.
Like it's just not. You think it's cool.
Like it seems for his character specifically physiologically impossible.
You know, I don't even want to say it like that. It's almost like. So the most reflecting thing to me is Austin gets this arrowhead, and you can tell it's so polarizing to him to be holding man's first weapon, right? And everything that comes with it. And like, you know, and they get, like you said, the uncut gems kind of like transforming into the universe, right? And this existentialism about how far do we go? And all this stuff gets just roped into that.
Right.
He wants to impress his friends, so he gets a sword from the medieval times, and he goes, and he doesn't. It's probably like an envelope knife, right?
It looks like a letter opener.
Yeah, exactly. And he's trying to explain it, and he goes, "Man waged war with that, and they killed others with it, and they killed and killed, and that's the first sword that you're looking at from man killing another man on the battlegrounds of the Holy Crusade." Like, whatever he says. And obviously, you know, it's so surface level with him, and he thinks it's cool, but he really doesn't have that response to what he's holding compared to how Austin talked about it, right?
Right.
And that's where I was like, the idea of what Austin does is so much cooler than Austin, for him at least. And maybe he is trying to get to that point, but that it felt like that was his internal struggle. Is like this guy opened a window for him of something completely of what he maybe wanted to be, just couldn't get to.
Yeah.
And then you see it, and he has no understanding that that's just not in his DNA.
Yeah.
Like, and it's his like, he's got the struggle throughout the film of trying to like, how do I get to that point without understanding? Like, he just won't, you know?
I do. I enjoy the sort of like reflective nature of, oh, not only does he struggle to maintain a relationship with Austin, but it feels like he just doesn't have a strong connection or relationship to anyone in this movie. Not his wife, not his kid, not like his coworkers, nothing. And you get to see that reflected in a way that is like, yes, it's ultimately comedic, but there is like such a sad element to this, in that like when he licks the toad and he starts tripping balls.
No, he didn't. I got.
Well, I say air quotes tripping balls. His version of that is going to Subway and ordering a sandwich.
Oh my god! That's the hardest I laughed in the whole movie. But,
when it cuts back and the dealer returns, my audience was just losing it. They were rolling.
Oh, as soon as he got it, so I mean, it starts out where he thinks he's tripping because he's focusing on the smoke alarm, and then it's on the wall, and he's walking by it, and you think he's like on the ceiling, you know, and he just walks into Subway. At that point, I started dying laughing. I was like, "Oh my!" Like, yes, like if this is your version of a trip, right? Like this is so. And then he wakes up, and at that point, I was like, "Oh my god!" You know, like he got duped out of $100 to lick a toad's ass,
right?
And the dealer, being so like. And who knows if that guy knows or not. Just being like, hey, man, the toad works in mysterious ways.
It seems like his character, just as a whole, has been deprived of, like, kind of agency. Like, my life has been kind of dictated because of how, lacking in
1000%.
social relationships that is, within my life. So like the clothes that he wears, they're all like perfectly fitted for him.
Ocean View Diner.
They
also serve food.
Him parroting about like Marvel spoilers, and it's like, oh, I haven't seen this Marvel, but like him going on about, let's go see the new Marvel, I heard it's nuts.
Well, I think
like things being fed to him that he just kind of parrots. The whole thing with like the SEAL Team 6 dinner. He says it like 3 fucking times throughout the movie.
He eventually gets it.
Right. It's like, there's too much food. I can't eat all this.
Dude.
It's a reflection of like, this guy has like really no kind of internal original existence. It's just that everything that he represents kind of stems from the little external experience that he has.
You couldn't say everything is. He is a. So I did like that. You got to have rules. He is a here's your lane. You just walk down that throughout life, and you'll get to the end point, and that'll be it. Yeah. Right. And you just stick. They're gonna have the walls up, horse blinders, right? And and then eventually things trickle in there. So like the dinner, I can only talk about Marvel, and I'm not gonna we're not gonna have fun because I'm not talking about it because that's all he's got,
right?
And it's like it is a little sad to think about, but it's also by choice, and he has gotten to this point in his life from the choices he's made to get to that point.
It's sad to the extent that like I can picture not someone exactly like this because he's so over the top.
Oh, dude, I know a person that's exactly like this.
I could picture someone existing in this way, thinking about like, you feel kind of bad for them because like they just can't do it. Like they just can't foster those relationships and have those greater experiences.
There's like, not to his extent, because he has a detachment from, like, it's almost Asperger's like no sense of the other person.
Asperger's and like undiagnosed bipolar disorder.
I don't know.
Not to risk being like an armchair psychiatrist.
I don't know if it's bipolar does not strike me with him. I mean, I know his mood swings are here and there, but not to the extent of bipolarism. Like
I think you might be closer with like an Asperger's thing because obviously there is some lacking in sort of like social cues. And
yes. Oh, lacking? Fuck you mean? Sorry about that. But
sometimes I wonder if I have Asperger's.
They're non-existent. Like,
and the obvious scene that exemplifies this is the boxing scene when he's in the garage with the friends and they're like having a cool little sparring match, him and Austin, and Austin kind of like playfully hits him a couple times, and then they say, all right, we should call it. Let's not play. And then he just fucking wallops him.
Yeah.
And then that's when the whole downward spiral happens. But it's like, that is, I can see that taking place in real life. Somebody who doesn't know not to do that.
Yes, 1,000%. I mean, yes. Yeah, that's where some of my issues with it was just like, I can't tell what's grounded here and what's Tim Robinson figuring out what's funny or what will work, and that's where I bumped up with the character itself, is just like, how far do we have to get into some of this, the comedy with what he's going to say or do versus like what really actually genuinely feels like a person that we're with. Yeah. Like some of the time it'd take me out of it. Not a whole lot, but a couple times where it's like, man, I'm into the movie and all of a sudden I kind of come back out. You know?
It's kind of it's reminding you that like, yes, this is a person whose background is in sketch comedy, and that's the plane that he primarily exists in. Right. That's the plane that this movie feels like it's like utilizing him in.
Yeah. But I think it's a really done comedic narrative.
Yeah. I'm pro that. Like I viewed this movie in that way of like, I like the stuff that it's doing with that. Because to me, I'm not like trying to get attached to his character. I just find it more so like fascinating. Like, oh, this guy is living this ridiculous way. There is like this reflection of like, I could see people living like this, but also it's a comedy, and I'm being reminded it's a comedy because he's yelling at someone at a drum set.
Well, that one I actually got, because like that is his line. He's like, because the guy comes out of nowhere, right? And he doesn't know who he is. So when he says his line of, I don't even know who the you are, and he's screaming, like, I got that.
Don't go in my bathroom. You're not allowed to use my bathroom.
Yeah. But That's like one of the times I laugh. And then there's other times where he's like in the mud, and he's sinking and he just starts screaming. It's like, all right, if I'm Austin at that point, like, okay.
Yeah. It turns into a bit of a cartoon.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
But I don't mind that, really.
Right. I thought this movie, and I just realized how I feel about it. It had more, and it's still a positive movie for me. Don't get me wrong.
For sure.
I think I really wanted this to be like the next step or a little bit more elevated. Because, like, this thing 80% throughout is a well done, like, not take out comedy, just narrative. Right,
yeah, it is an interesting, albeit straightforward story.
Right, and there are some themes being touched on, some deeper things to reflect on, which I love in movies when you can step away from something, especially a comedy, when you can actually talk about, just the evolution of friendships and what it looks like being a male in your, and later on in life. Mm-hmm. Like that's something that you never anyone really touches on or talks about.
Right,
but then it has the 20% that it is like, oh, we'll be a comedy and we'll be funny or we'll do this. And that's where I'm like, God, it takes a step back for me in that regard.
Yeah, there is this idea that the scene in which he has the gun and is sitting at like his desk inside his house, and his wife is kind of walking around going like, Austin, are you here? Was when the movie had like a little bit more going on in that, like, is this going to turn?
Yes.
Is the tone going to shift? Is this going to pull like a Parasite going on right now?
Well, dude, that's why the red herrings wasn't just for at the beginning. There are red herrings throughout this thing. There's a couple Chekhov guns in this thing that never come back to fruition, but they highlight and they pose. I mean, and that you like in the back of your head. And I didn't mean to cut you off, but like,
no, you're good.
In the back of your head, you're like, is this going to come around? And that's another beauty of this thing is that it's so intertwined with some of like, because we're uncertain of what this character is going to do, anything that's popped up could come back in a callback fashion, could be a Chekhov gun, and in reality, it was the gun, right? Mm-hmm. But, like that scene alone, there's tension being built, and it's like uncomfortable, And I thought it's really well done in that regard too, because like you don't see a lot of comedies that mix match your emotions like that.
Yeah, I think it's easy for comedies to do cringe humor in a way that feels kind of repetitive.
Yes.
And then there's movies like this where I think it does it in a way where like it balances the ridiculousness of it, the over the top nature of it, but also those moments where it's like, oh God, I feel like I've been in this situation before. I feel like it balances those really fucking well. Mm-hmm. And I want to get your idea of what you think the ending means, where he has that vision of like, oh, they actually are pals. He leaves they all leave the garage. He like says bye to Austin and then cuts to him in the cop car. Austin turns around, winks at him.
Yeah.
And then he's smiling in the cop car. The movie ends.
I'll be interested to hear what you hear, or what you have to say, because I really didn't know what to make of it. There is like this idea that he never, like, he could be tripping still, right? I
had that thought, yeah.
Like there's flashbacks, like it's still like it's left very I don't want to say another movie but it's
a little ambiguous.
Yes, thank you for that word.
You're welcome. It's one of my favorites.
There's this split personality. There's this like, is he, is he not necessarily deranged, but is this like his vision of what Austin would do? And then there's another version of me where I'm like, oh, the real ending, it's like a Wayne's World sketch where he actually didn't do the bar of soap thing that he had, when he has that epiphany or like what could have happened. Yeah. Like I would not be sitting here. And then I like to think that that's the ending, and he's like envisioning this as like what would have happened had he gone against how he normally acts, right? I don't really know. I mean, there's nothing. It's very, there's also because of the wig. Like, is he doing him a solid? Like, did he not fuck up that much to...
Right. Like, is he winking at him because, like, during that whole gun-toting scene, Austin falls over, loses his wig.
Dude, I was
Craig Robinson, Craig Robinson, Jesus Christ. Craig Waterman allows him to put the wig back on while keeping, like, all of his other friends on the ground. And he's like, pointing at his head. And I'm wondering if like that had something to do with it too.
That's
like,
what I'm, you know, like, hey, I owe you one. This is the one I'll give you.
Right.
You know, or is this just Austin being Austin and knowing how to play with not necessarily play relationships, but like keep people at a certain distance, you know, like either allowing you in or maintaining something superficial to kind of keep space, you know, like he does a really good job of playing the game in that regard. So, you know, I don't know. I really don't. I walking away, I mean, it's like that dude's going to jail, you know.
Did you have a favorite line in this movie?
Well, what'd you think of? I mean, you didn't.
Oh, of the ending?
Yeah.
I feel like it is. The more rational explanation is that it's in his head.
Right.
That he is conjuring the image of Austin turning around and winking at him as a hope of,
yes,
oh, he's still my friend.
Yes.
Because he's still obsessed with this dude.
Yes.
If there was a reason for it to happen in reality, it was the wig thing. Yeah. And it's like acknowledging that, like, hey, I know you're like a fucking crazed guy and you're going to jail, but you did do me a solid. Yes. So maybe I help you out in some way.
That's what exactly.
Yeah. I lean more towards the former than the latter, though.
Oh, same.
For the sake of like overarching narrative.
Yes.
Favorite line
in that whole thing,
in the whole movie.
Oh God.
I do like the drum moment where he's like, "Fucking psycho! I don't know you." Like,
yeah.
He's just
like, I don't even know you.
Right.
Like,
he's just losing it. He's in a drum kit by himself in a garage while a party's going on.
His wife's party. First, her being saved.
His wife's welcome home party from being missing in the sewer.
I told Jasmine, I had said, well, like, I didn't even pose it as, I was just kind of explaining the movie, and she's like, he didn't look for her? Like, looked at me and said that, and I was like, yeah, like, I get, like, yeah. Like, I can't even, I guess because I'm like, I don't, like, fantasize about someone being lost and being part of a search party to know how big of a deal that is.
Right.
But it is kind of like, hey, your wife's missing. I'll put in some PTO and, you know, let's find her. Right.
Right.
And they find her and he doesn't even have the wherewithal, like at the party, to fucking go up there and, favorite line. I don't know if I have a favorite line. Favorite scene is by far and away the acid tripping scene.
That's a standout.
And the realization of everything that, I mean, at least what you had to think happened with what he did. And dude, oh my God.
The bar of soap moment is, I think, a top moment for me.
For me, that was like the most uncomfortable.
And I loved it for it.
So I think the issue is like, as being a person that would never do that, I immediately was like, associated or with like Austin and the group of friends, like, how would I react if that like, right. And I was so uncomfortable with, like, I don't know what I'd say. Like, I don't even think I can handle it as well as he did. Mm-hmm. You know,
part of me was worried that when he was done with his whole like soap bit, that the group would like stare at him for a bit and then start laughing in unison with him,
right? As
like he made up for it, blah blah. But no, I love that they're just like, Jesus Christ.
Yeah. Like, it's so that to me, that's like where the kind of the movie, because, you know, the whole time, like the 15-20 minutes before that, you're like, there's obviously something going on with this guy. Like, he just seems so awkward, so, you know, plain Jane. And then for the movie to highlight that, yeah, that's where it flipped for me, probably for everyone, you know.
Yeah. Did you want to talk about theater experience before we get into ratings?
Oh, sure. Like, I saw this over the weekend. We had like we had a jam-packed weekend, so it was one of the only times I could go. And you're picking out the tickets. I'm guessing everyone. Well, no, the GQT doesn't do it. But you got to pick out your seats, you know.
Yeah, because you go to the Grand Haven 9.
Grand Haven 9 right down the road. It's nice, but it's got to be
your stomping ground.
I guess it's got to be like a wide release film for it to get there, because they didn't have Friendship.
Damn.
So no, I had to pick up my seat, and it was like every other row. So I found the one close. I was like, all right, give me one behind the handicapped people, you know, or the handicapped seats, because I don't think there's gonna be anyone there. and who's ever behind me, I'll live with. And get in there. Trailers are like just going on, right? Like first trailer starts going, and because I was a couple minutes behind,
Yeah,
and I knew I was like gonna get the trailer. So, anyways, the Phoenician trailer comes out.
Oh, the Phoenician Scheme.
The Phoenician Scheme.
I do want to watch that.
Yeah, yeah. Wes Anderson for me is
that's not an uncommon reaction to Wes Anderson's latest output.
Like one of the podcasts I listen to is like they're like, and it's such a backhanded slap, which I don't like saying, but I do agree because it's how I feel about comedy. Sometimes they're like, you just don't get it, and I'm like, I am part of the just don't get it group.
Yeah,
like, and it feels like Wes Anderson is now become a standard deviation of Wes Anderson, which, with his kind of comedic style and the quirkiness around it, like it feels like he's gone deeper into it.
I feel like I'm not disagreeing with you. I feel like that is the case with French Dispatch and Asteroid City specifically.
Yeah.
I feel like we'll get into our ratings for Friendship here soon.
Yes.
Don't want to spend too long on this.
Right.
I feel like there is a degree in which it can work if the characters have a little bit more ethos going on. So like M. Gustav in Grand Budapest, I always bring up this example. I love that movie because he feels like a character that is trying his best to navigate a Wes Anderson movie,
right,
and just not really figuring out how to do so.
Yes.
And to me, that is where it becomes interesting. Other movies utilize that to a degree, like Fantastic Mr. Fox, Moonrise Kingdom. It's when he starts getting, I think, a little too comfortable with the monotone of the performances.
Deadpan. Everyone's deadpan.
Is when it starts to kind of rub me the wrong way.
And I think this one's going to go even harder into it.
I'm a little more optimistic, but we'll see.
We'll see.
There's only been the one trailer, and I've seen it like fucking 10 times already.
Right. And so they had the new one out. Right. And the friggin' people sitting behind me apparently had never even heard of this movie.
Never heard of Wes Anderson.
Laughing hysterically in a trailer. And I'm
hey guys, I got some movies for you to watch.
I'm like, I'm thinking like, oh dear God. Like this is going to go one of two ways because they're kind of chatty. It's a little under the breath. It was a group of, I think, like older females, I think. Because I'm just thinking
older
like.
Than you?
Yes.
Oh.
Like I'm thinking like it sounded like 50s or 60s, right? Like, hey, we've selected this movie because it's called Friendship.
Got some milds in there.
Yeah, it's a comedy. And so they're like dying laughing in this trailer, and I'm like, this is going one of either they're gonna find everything in this movie hysterical or it's gonna be incredibly off-putting. So the first thing kind of comes out is the orgasming bit, and they are not laughing, right? I'm in my head thinking like, oh my God, they're going to be the uncomfortable.
You're like, oh
talking
God, this is going to be a bummer.
Under their breath. Yeah, not appreciative. So the pans out, just Craig is like quizzical look. And then his remark of, well, I'm orgasming just fine. I start laughing. They start laughing. I'm like,
they just needed you to like prime them up.
Yeah. Well, and I started chuckling. I was like, oh, thank God. I am now, I feel like kind of the leader on the funny march here. And hopefully that broke the seal of like, oh, this won't be uncomfortable.
It's like, guys, it's okay. We can laugh at this movie.
Well, and there's like there's one of two ways. It's okay, that's a little raunchy. I don't quite agree with that. This is like,
oh my
talking
heavens.
about, yeah, exactly. Or like, oh, it's little kids snickering behind the church bells, right? Like, kind of funny. So that ended up being the route it went, and it was great. And I caught myself. I thought they would be laughing hysterically, and I'd be like, I am out of this now. Like, I think that's funny, but now that you like it, I can't like it because I'm ODD. It wasn't the case. I caught myself chuckling ahead of them numerous times with them following behind. And I was like, okay, that's where I say it was like a delightful experience of like, yeah. I got my laughs in. I got people, at least it felt like that. Like I could be way off,
It seemed very simpatico from how you're describing it.
Yeah, and it was like we'd all like they would like the acid trip scene. Like I was dying laughing, and like as soon as I let the one out, everyone just started like at least behind me roaring.
Yeah,
and so it was very enjoyable. We were all on kind of the same wavelength with what was funny.
That's good.
Yeah.
My experience isn't too noteworthy. Just went by myself. The people around me were laughing a fair amount at the movie. I feel like I was probably laughing the most, but I feel like I was also maybe the most familiar with Tim Robinson's comedic style.
And
I knew kind of what to expect.
You like that? I knew that he was going to do the outburst stuff.
Yeah.
And like the kind of, God, that just is like, ugh.
His shtick.
Yeah.
Because as much as I love the guy, as much as I think that he's like maybe one of the funniest like sketch comedy people out there right now.
He's got a great brain.
There is like an identifier. You can tell it's him. And
that's where you knowing more about him, I mean, it resonated with you a little bit more, and you kind of, not to say knew what to expect, but I mean, if you like it or you don't.
Right. Shall we get into ratings? Speaking of liking or not.
Yes, let's do it.
I'm going first.
Yes.
So this is a solid 8 out of 10 for me.
Wow.
I found this movie really fucking funny.
Yep.
I really like the performances. There's enough depth in this film to kind of like dig out. I like that it reflects not only the idea of male adult relationships, but the idea of loneliness and the inability to read social situations causing a ostracization, not just within a friend group, but also in your personal relationships as well. I really like the balance of what this movie's doing with the kind of like sketch comedy moments, with real moments of introspection, with also just like, oh, it's an interesting dynamic between these two performers. And we didn't really talk too much about the technical stuff. I like the way it was framed. The lighting I thought was really effective. Again, this is just a fascinating kind of experiment of a film to me, of like, what if we take a movie that could be serious and we throw Tim Robinson in there and just let him be himself. So
it's kind of funny to think about that. Yeah.
To me, this is an 8 out of 10. Nice.
I grappled with this one back and forth. Immediately walking out, I felt like I was a little bit left wanting more. I started drifting more on the train of this being more of a narrative than a comedy, which I think is like, it's a applaud to the film for having done that. Like, you're walking into the same thing. It's just we laugh out loud moments and unreal sticks here and there with like incomprehensible, like, why would you do that stuff? And it wasn't. I mean, this was like, I think, well written. There's a couple themes that are touched on. I like the I've never I've said a comedic red herring, but like, I've never seen it done where you're expecting a payoff or something to pop back up and it doesn't happen, and I give that applause for having done that, because you mostly always have a payoff at some point, right?
Yeah.
Whether it's the climax of the film or, there's some banter going on back and forth, or you can see it happening a mile away. This one presents a lot of stuff that you think, maybe not a lot, but you think it's going to pop up that doesn't. Acting was sensational. I really liked, I have more of an appreciation for Tim Robinson now. And, I had it at a 7 out of 10. And then I gave it a couple days, and I was like, I'm thinking about this movie more. It's still like I've been chuckling today about a couple scenes that I really just appreciated. So this is a solid 8 out of 10. I don't know if it will waver any other way. I think it's like stapled in there, but for a comedy, pretty good.
Yeah. Speaking of pretty good, Shia LaBeouf gets pretty good at dig it up on dig it. Dig it up on, yeah. Dig it up on, dig it. Dig it up on, yeah. You got to go dig those holes.
Nice.
Holes!
Yeah.
My recommendation, the movie that we're talking about. So let's just jump into this Hole. So Holes is a 2003 American neo-Western comedy drama film. In my opinion, maybe a little bit too many adjectives to go along in there. Directed by Andrew Davis, written by Louis Sacker, who also wrote the 1998 novel of the same name. And he helped write the screenplay. Stars Shia LaBeouf in his feature film debut as Stanley Yelnats IV, otherwise known as Caveman. Sigourney Weaver as Warden Louise Walker, not Parker, not related to Peter. John Voight as Mr. Sir, also goes by another name that's revealed at the end of this film. Tim Blake Nelson as Dr. Steve Pendansky. Cleo Thomas as Zero. And then, of course, there is a few other kids, most notably X-Ray, Squid, Armpit, Magnet, Zigzag, Twitch, and, of course, Barfbag, who Shia LaBeouf is replacing in this film. Henry Winkler plays Stanley Yelnats III. And this is a film about this young boy, played by Shia LaBeouf, who is walking down the street one day, and all of a sudden, a pair of Sweet Feet's shoes fall on him. Sweet Feet being a famous baseball player. And the police mistaken him for having stolen these shoes, and they give him a choice. Either jail or Camp Green Lake.
Oh, yeah.
And he says, well, I've never been to camp before. And the judge goes, 18 months, Camp Green Lake, son. Hits the gavel. Next thing you know, he's on a bus heading into the desert where
Camp Green Lake.
Every day he's got to dig a hole, and he can't stop digging until he's done with that hole. And from there, we also learn about the environment's past. There used to be a town. There used to be a lake. And something that he discovers connects it to his family lineage.
Yeah.
Maybe it severs a curse. Maybe he makes some friends along the way.
Yeah. We'll talk about an adventure that we did not go into the sewer system with.
No real sewers to be found in this movie. Not a wet movie by any means.
No.
It's pretty dry for the most part.
Yeah.
Spoilers for Holes, by the way. I recommended this movie because this was, to me, a seminal childhood movie.
Yeah.
I remember in third grade, I don't know if you had a similar experience with reading books in your class when you were that young, but for us, our teacher would take books and he would read them to us. So it was kind of like popcorn reading, except he was doing all the reading, and we all had our own copy of the books, so we could like read along with him.
Yep.
But he had Holes, and I remember him reading the book out loud to us and thinking to myself, like, oh, this is a pretty interesting story. I don't know how much of it I was taking in because I was in third grade.
You can attach yourself to the character.
Yeah.
Because he's around your age, if not just a little older, but nothing that's 19 years old knows the world.
I was fascinated with like, oh, this is a story about like a kid in this situation.
Yeah.
Like an actual like story. That's kind of cool.
And he got in trouble and it was not his fault.
Right. What would I do in this situation?
Yeah.
It's a very like kind of vicarious experience for me, especially with the film.
Yep.
And then the movie comes out. I watch it. Instant classic for me.
Yep.
Like hooked into it right away. Watched it endlessly. We were talking about reciting lines in TV shows with you in Parks and Rec.
Yep.
There was probably a point in time where I could recite every single line in this movie.
Yeah.
I used to do that with a lot of the things that I obsessed with as a kid. Napoleon Dynamite, Holes, certain episodes of SpongeBob, where I could just recite them line for line.
Yeah.
Over and over again. And I would do that while I was laying in bed before I went to sleep because it was a good nighttime ritual. And I'm an insane kid.
Whatever gets you to sleep.
So I watched this movie a lot. I knew it super well, like the back of my hand. But I hadn't seen it in a long time. And I wanted to recommend this movie because, obviously, seminal film for me. You had mentioned it was a childhood film favorite for you. I figured it was worth revisiting and talking about, especially since I don't think either of us had seen this movie in quite some time.
Yeah.
And I watched this movie. There's still a lot that I appreciate, obviously. There's, I think, some genuinely good stuff in here, some good performances, some like really fun moments.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know about you. To me, this movie is sort of the victim of nostalgia revisiting. It's one of those where, like, because I hadn't watched it in a long time, I threw it back on. Certain scenes and moments take place. Certain technical aspects of this movie are a little shaky, and I'm watching this movie going, I don't think it holds up as well as I wanted it to. And I don't. Maybe you had a similar experience. I'm curious what your thoughts on that are.
Yeah. So
who knows? Maybe you gave it a 10.
We'll find out when I did not look at the rating when I pulled it up on IMDb. No, I'm trying to think. I think we might have read this in 6th grade. Like it was like an assigned reading.
Yeah. Because that's the grade you were probably in when I was
third grade.
In third grade, yeah.
Somewhere around that, because I
Yeah.
know that the book came out, and like some of these books, they have massive success. So it's like, hey, we'll piggyback on that and go on with the fucking film, Twilight.
Yeah, for real.
Dog shit.
I'm gonna get you to watch those movies one day.
I've already seen number 1.
Well, you got 4 more, buddy boy.
There's 4 of those. 4 more?
I think because there's Twilight, and then there's Twilight New Moon, Twilight Eclipse, and then Breaking Dawn Part 1 and 2. So yeah, you got 4 more. Bustafer Jones.
Yeah. So, anyways, not ever watching those. That'll be a
watching
great
those.
assigned. We're talking about all 5 of them. Jasmine will be happy. No, so I think 6th grade. It's like assigned reading. It's a great book. There's some not necessarily deep metaphors going on, but a lot of what you kind of can use anecdotally to assimilate with the world.
There's some
right?
larger themes going on than you would find in like typical children-oriented media,
but done in a very elementary fashion.
Yeah,
right. Like it's not beating you over the head, but it is going to talk about some things that are done in like sort of like a touch and feel way. So the movie came out. My relationship with it is we had a half day in middle school, and I remember like the half days in middle school were the best, right? Because we'd go to Wendy's. You'd walk to Wendy's with the $4 that you got from doing the dishes. You'd spend all of it on the Baconators, and then you'd figure out what you're gonna do. Well, I decided like, hey, we're gonna go see Holes. Like my buddy's mom was like, I'll take you guys to the movie theater. We'll watch it. It's like a 4 p.m. showing or something like that. Not a cell phone in sight. So I went and saw them film. We go back to my buddy's house. We go over to the playground, and it's like, I don't know, 6:30, 7 o'clock at night, and my brother comes over the hill to this playground, just like, you got to get home. It's like, I'm hanging out with my friends, and Sam's like, no, you got to go. We're going home. I was like, just tell mom and dad I'm with my buddies. He said, no, I cannot leave without you. Like, you're coming home. And I thought, okay, like, hey, guys.
He has been sent on a mission.
We'll see you later, not even thinking about the damage that I did. Get home. And this thing came out right around my birthday. Fairly certain got grounded for my birthday. Got grounded from hanging out with my friends. Like,
is it just because like your parents didn't know where you were?
Yeah, it was school got done with 11. We haven't heard from you at 7 o'clock at night.
Oh, yeah.
Did not say, hey, we're going here.
That's why,
there.
yeah, mentioning not a cell phone in sight.
Yes. So a 13-year-old kid, God knows what happened to him because last time we saw you were in 3rd period, So, but saw the movie in theater. Absolutely loved it. Like this and Shrek seeing in theaters, Shrek the second time seeing it in theaters because I fell asleep the first time, was fantastic. Yes, as a kid, this movie is phenomenal.
I don't think I saw this in theater. I don't think I got to see this in theaters. It's purely like a home VHS.
Yeah, if you're in 3rd grade,
right?
Or maybe 5th grade at the time. I mean, it's
definitely like. Middle range to later elementary school.
Yeah,
I didn't mean to derail you. I'm sorry.
No, this was prime for middle school kids to go out and check out, right? Because you're watching Shia LaBeouf and he's your hero in this thing, and it's so low stakes with what's going on, but it feels so immenseful, right? Like it feels like that this is such a serious event happening. No, loved. I mean, I really enjoyed it. I'm in the same boat where it was kind of like one of those movies. If it was on, you watched it. Like I said, me and Sam watched it 10, 12 years ago. Whatever it was, probably like early college, where we're both starting to get a little bit more into critiquing movies and finding some abstract themes with it, or just watching it to see if there's anything different that happens. And
right.
I had not really. I every once in a while, it's like I'll throw it on in the background. I knew what I was walking into because I had been privy to, and I think 100% is a nostalgic film. This is like the Spider-Man, right? Or you just remember seeing it at such a young age. This is geared towards that demographic.
Yes.
But I will say, and I know this because Preston watched it with me. I didn't make him watch it, but it was early morning. I'm like, we're not putting on YouTube, right? Like,
yeah, it's like this is a good film to show him that age.
Yeah, and he liked it quite a bit. I don't know if I want to say loved it, but like he was engrossed.
Nice.
Yeah, and it's one of those things where it's like
It's good to watch a kid have that experience with it the first time.
And you want those movies because you're also kind of projecting, being like, was I like this when I was a kid watching this? Because now I'm watching it and it feels a little outdated, a little old.
Yeah.
The stakes aren't as high. So
right.
This is a Disney adventure film.
Some of the flair has kind of worn off on this thing.
Yes. Now that you understand the world a little bit more, like you're asking about the tax forms and how do these people not know their kids and what they're doing out there.
Right.
And then there's a couple other things that like one kid goes.
What does Henry Winkler do for work?
Yeah, exactly. Like watch it, dude. There are like so many higher themes going on about like that aren't talked about or needed to talk about because it's for a 12-year-old. But I'm like, as a grown ass man, could I just stop working and try to invent something?
Because when you're a kid, you're watching Henry Winkler use tongs to put shoes in a pot, and you're like, yeah, this makes sense. He's an inventor. His job is inventing.
Yes.
And then you get older, and it's like, how does he pay rent?
Yeah,
how does this guy have an income?
Dad living with him?
Is he drawing on his dad's Social Security?
You're like looking at exactly, and you're looking at the curse, and I just remember like watching it this time around, and I was like, does it really count? Does it have to be the bloodline? And was he walking up the hill, and why was he singing that song? Like, there's so many like has to happen circumstances in this. As a kid,
this movie feels very much like, oh, it's written in the stars that this takes place,
and it is so like just by fortune, right, that this happens. And as a kid, all of it's plausible. Like, none of this is like, you're not thinking about those other things happening.
Yeah. You can recognize the parallels and be like, oh, yeah, of course this is happening.
Yeah.
And it makes sense, and I'm gelling with it, and it's like all good.
And you have the aha moments that you have, because even Preston kind of had a couple, like, there's so much more excitement with the, I got it, versus like, okay, like, that's a great. Like, how much blood is left in that for the Zeroni thing to count? Because she's full-blooded, you know?
Right.
Like, I'm picking apart this goddamn curse.
Also, how sweet are those onions, really? You're just biting into a fucking raw vegetable.
How about the splooge? And it's like, all right.
The splooge cracked me up so much because he literally just breaks a glass jar, gets however many shards all over that juice. And then just has him like sip directly from the shard. And it's like, brother, you're going to cut yourself.
Not only that, it's like, all right, I know that these things hold up, but this is like 100 years.
Right.
You know? Like,
how are you not getting dysentery from eating this thing?
Like that jam, like there's something going on. I know that it's air sealed, but come on.
Like I grew up as like a, fairly sheltered kid. My parents would worry about my safety a little bit more than I think they maybe needed to.
Right.
If they saw me like do the same thing that Zero does in that scene, they'd be like, you're never fucking having peaches again. Like, get this out of his face.
Or how about them drinking that dirty ass water,
swimming around in the water,
thumb, and like just lapping it up.
They're covered in dirt, and then after they get done rolling around in it, Shia LaBeouf's just in it face deep going.
Yeah, I'm like sitting there saying, I was like, do germs not count? Like, why is it? Anyways.
It's kid logic. Water equals good, no matter how muddy it looks.
As a 12, 13-year-old, you're watching that, just going like, I bet you that's the sweetest sensation he's ever felt in his life. I would be drinking that water too.
Yeah.
And that's where this thing has its demographic, and that's who it's designed for. So like, I don't get too caught up in it. It humors me more now to be able to watch this thing and have those thoughts, but I don't hold it against the film at all, because it's not. They didn't make the holes the book for me right now and say you need to read this and appreciate it.
Right. They didn't make it for some like 30-year-old asshole who's going to be talking to a microphone about it. I think we should start with the aspects that I think work the best in this movie.
Okay.
The performances.
The kids are good.
I think the kids are good. I think the adults range from good to great. I think that as much as, he's a bit of a problematic figure, obviously our new ambassador to Hollywood, Jon Voight, I think he's really good in this movie as Mr. Sir. I think he's doing a really good job playing like kind of unhinged, like maniacal personality, just like overly aggressive towards these kids in a way in which like, this guy's clearly on a power trip, but he's also like kind of pathetic.
Yes.
with like his fucking hairdo and his like thin ass pathetic little sideburns.
Well, and he's got all these stories about how he reigns supreme, but then you get to see the cracks in the glass.
He walks around drunk as shit, shooting at yellow spotted lizards in the middle of the night.
Yeah.
And it's just, this guy is fun. He's a douchebag, but I love it whenever he's on screen because he'll like say the thing that he thinks is the funniest in the world. Once upon a time, there was a land where it never rained. The end. Yeah.
I laughed at that.
And the kids are like, what the fuck who is this guy? And I don't know. I love his energy in this movie. Yes. He sticks out to me. Honestly, like most all the adults who are running that campground, him, Tim Blake Nelson, Sigourney Weaver, obviously having like a level of gravitas and presence. Yep. This was my introduction to Sigourney Weaver. Yes. This was the first ever movie I've ever seen her in. And it was one of those things where like, because I was so young and this was the first thing I watched her in, every other movie that I had seen where she was in, even if I didn't know who she was, I was like, oh, this is the warden from Holes. She has this level of presence and just overarching influence over this movie. There's an amount of power there in that performance that I think works really well. I think it speaks volumes that like, even when I was a kid, I could recognize her. Obviously, she is a very unique looking individual with like her eyes and like her stature. She's a very tall woman, but also just because like, I'm kind of scared of her as the warden.
She has a domineering presence.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Very, very domineering, very like kind of thirsty for that Stanley Yelnats treasure.
She doesn't know. Well, right. And I love that the backstory is just that little quip of how she became so fucked up, but it does so much.
It explains a lot.
So much. Just that little interaction is all the exposition you need on why she is the way she is.
Yeah.
And
does such a good job.
Yeah, fantastic. And I think I'm in the same boat because now that I'm thinking about back on my childhood and I might have seen her maybe in Alien or Aliens. Right. Like, I might have seen that before I saw Holes. But like
talking about movies watching too young.
Oh, dude, me and Sam, we had a text thread that I think we rattled off 40 to 50 films.
We're gonna have to go through that one of these days. Maybe not this episode, but
if it's still in there, I might have to just take pictures because like we were both dying laughing on these films that. Anyways, yeah, and I'm very appreciative because it's made me the man I am today with watching movies.
So you turned out fine.
Yeah. But that presence that you speak of is she was the villain in this thing, and it always kind of humors me with the first time that you're introduced to an actor, actor, and you know them from how like they play against type. Yeah, but that is now your type for them, right? So like when you see her in something good, you're confused because she's the villain in your head from this movie, and I think that's why I've struggled with her as like a performer, a thespian, if you will, because that's how I really got to know her. And then she usually plays a good person. Yeah, Well, I take that back because I think the next film I saw was Heartbreakers with Jennifer Lee something.
Jennifer Jason Leigh.
Yeah.
I think it works in two different ways of her introduction scene that are like very effective in different ways. So it's effective in that like if you already know who Sigourney Weaver is and it reveals that it's her, you know that like, oh, you're getting real actress Sigourney Weaver in this performance. She's going to bring a level of gravitas to this. It also works in that, for me, when I watch this movie, it reveals that the warden is a woman. And it kind of recontextualizes how you think about the people in this camp that perceive her of like, oh, the warden has all the power. The warden does this. They always refer to her as the warden. They never like give her a specific gender or anything until she shows up.
Yeah.
And I think that there is like a real kind of effectiveness behind that, and that like it's subverting your expectation of like, oh, this has to be like the meanest dude around, even if like Mr. Sir is scared of this person.
Yes.
And when it's revealed to be Sigourney Weaver, you're like, oh, that's even more interesting, because now it's like, what even is this dynamic like if she has all the power over this camp?
I don't want maybe role reversal. I'm trying to think of, there's a certain,
it's playing with expectations.
Yes. 100%.
Yeah. Absolutely.
I guess. Yeah. I don't want to. I'm trying to think. It's hard to like kind of go back and think about the feelings of this film when you've seen it so many times. Going back to, but that is a great point. I think this movie does touch on a couple themes that are good for younger audiences to get introduced to, right? One of the things that I found interesting with that, so like that's a good subversion of expectations, right? Like it reminds me of there was a car accident and the doctor, it's a father and a daughter, right? And the doctor said, I can't operate on him. This is my spouse, or whatever. And everyone's like, I don't get it. Like, how do you crack that code? And, it's a female doctor, right? It kind of plays into that. The one that I found a little bit interesting with this, and not like, hey, I'm taking a baseball bat to this, but like systematic oppression. Yeah. Like that is like, I couldn't believe just because of how the, different races in this film were treated differently under this authoritarian rule and with, within the judicial system, if you will. And I was like, wow. So, I mean, you got that going on. You got a little bit of the, Jasmine has a hard time with the film because she's like, they deal with the concept of racism, going on in it. And it's like, boy, a lot of things I never thought about, like when I was a kid, just being introduced, not necessarily beaten over the head, but just shown kind of at this level, a little bit, dip your toe in the water about like what you're kind of, what you can see, the ripple effects that go on throughout life is if you were to pay attention to that. Being at the time young white male, over my head. Right. This time around, I was seeing it, I was like, wow, like this is a really, if you were to have like if I was with Preston, he was a little older, to be able to say like, see this stuff going on, and have him be able to recognize that, and it's a softball pitch. It's not like
It's not like hammering you on the head with it. It's not like the overarching theme.
It's not,
but it's for sure there, and it's funny that you mentioned that because while I was watching the movie, that scene where they're burning down the schoolhouse and Patricia Arquette's running around. Patricia Arquette loving this movie, by the way. We'll talk about it.
She's great.
When they're burning down the schoolhouse and she's like, they're burning down the school. She like goes to the sheriff. She starts crying at him, and then he's drunk as shit. And she's like, "You're drunk," and he's like, "I always get drunk before I hang him." And they have that exchange where she's like, "Well, they have to hang me too because I kissed him back." And he goes, "It's not against the law for you to kiss him. It's for him to kiss you." Yeah. And I'm like, oh wow, this is like something I didn't remember as a kid being present in the movie. Like this is touching on the racial sort of aggression going on in this time period and how that like ripples through our current day, at least at the time the movie came out. Obviously, like it's taken like a different form now that applies to like the same thing. But I never remembered that being so present in the movie when I'm a kid, because I'm just thinking like, oh, they're just burning down the schoolhouse because the guy was jealous.
Yes.
And now I watch the movie and I'm like, oh, this is introducing these elements in a way that is like digestible for kids.
Yes.
Whether or not they're like conscious of it is a different thing. But also, it is good that it includes that because, like, it is painting a picture, even if the kids don't necessarily realize it at the time.
And it doesn't even realize it. But it also, if there's curiosity, it poses the question of why. Yeah, and that's another good thing. And that's where, I mean, we're both talking. Digestible is a great way of communicating that because it is very simple in the regards of what you're viewing, that if someone were to ask why, it is also somewhat surface level of an explanation that you don't have to really dive in and go back to the Jim Crow laws and
this movie's not being like a Spike Lee film. It's not trying to touch on this in a way that's like artful or super thematic. It's just it's doing it in a way that's like this is going to reach a kid's hippocampus and they're going to think about this.
Yes, absolutely. I do like I guess I was old enough to I didn't really associate it with an African American and white and all that stuff, but it was like boy, that's interesting, and like that seems wrong. Right. Yeah. And so I do remember like a lot. I don't think there's anything in this thing that actually, I take that back. I mean, just kind of what I saw with how we look at just the system itself and being a little bit more anecdotal and just with just Camp Green Lake and these kids digging holes. But
And I would imagine, and I don't want to make assumptions, but I feel like I could infer that like maybe one of the harder parts that Jasmine would have with this film is the dichotomy between Stanley Yelnats' life and Hector Zeroni's life.
Yes.
And that like Hector Zeroni and Stanley Yelnats, obviously they're both like kind of lower class kids. The biggest difference though is that Stanley has a support system. He's got a family structure.
Right.
He's got something that he can fall back on. Whereas because of the system, Hector Zeroni doesn't have that.
Right.
And he's essentially a homeless kid who by circumstance, by environment, is in this place.
It's, how does the system fail you? And,
right.
And she has the background of working through like residential homes and stuff and working with, these kids that their family lives are in disarray. Right. So it touches her on more levels than just the, African-American part.
For sure.
But there was like and it never hit. It, actually, if I had to say something outside too, it never really hit me until this time was when, they're talking about like, oh, I lived over here. Like, oh, no way, I lived over here. And, Stanley's like, oh, yeah, I used to go to that park all the time. And Hector's like, yeah, I was a kid sleeping in the slide. And he's like,
I used to sleep in the tunnel next to the swinging bridge.
Yeah, and there's a moment that Stanley recognizes, like...
Yeah, they have that kind of look with each other.
Yeah, where Hector's like, well, I think he's like, I can't believe I said that out loud. And Stanley's like, oh, shit, like, I know my life's been bad, but, like...
Yeah, nowhere near the level that this kid has had to live. And he's younger than I am.
And the assumptions that you make of just about seeing someone and not really knowing where they're from, you just make that, like, you got a family, you got some money... my life sucks because we got cursed. And then this kid who's 2 years, 3 years younger than me living in a slide without his parents, like, how do you fend for yourself? And
unable to read, unable to write.
And I remember, like, that happened when me and P were watching and Jess was out in the kitchen. And, like, I kind of looked up at her and she's like, I can't watch this movie. I was like, oh, like, that I don't know if it should hit me that hard or maybe it's because of your experiences or whatnot, but it's very funny. Like, I shouldn't say very funny, whatever you want to call it, that you have this PG movie on and someone's like tears in their eyes, like, I'm done, I just can't do it.
Right. This is hitting too close to home.
Yeah. And I just remember that's kind of like, all right, like, I understand, I get you, take your space, but yeah, they're very tough things when you actually, and you've gone through those experiences and people in real life that this is reflective of.
Staying on the topic of Zero, of Hector Zeroni, why do you think that Dr. Pendanski was so hard on him specifically? Is it to kind of underline the uphill battle that his life is, like, constantly because of his economic situation, his environment, his illiteracy? Is it just because they want to underline Pendanski as an asshole, or is it also to underline that Zero is in a situation that is more dire than the other kids?
I think that there's a bifold thing going on with
multifaceted.
Yes. Pendanski is like he's, like you mentioned, like, underlying. I don't know if I'd say he's an underlying asshole. But it's also, there is no one that works this camp that is relatable or should have any sort of like sympathy for.
Right.
So like it kind of plays into that regard for the audience and just like as a thematic thing going on, right? Like it's for the narrative, right? Like we have to pick someone and we have to show that he's not that good of a guy, right? I don't think, every time I watch it, I never think he's that bad. I do think, though, that it's also a reflection of the easiest answer is we can't help that kid. And it's another reflection of the system, in which case...
Like, there's an idea of, like, this kid's too far gone, so why would I show him the time of day?
You have a young African-American kid that's homeless, no family, can't read or write. Why should we help him? Right? Mm-hmm. Like, I think it's supposed to play into that regard of like maybe how like some of the education system works, where the easiest answer is discard them as opposed to invest.
Yeah, like he kind of represents the system's thinking in that way of like, well, there's not much else we can do, so like, what the fuck are we gonna do?
Yeah, and I think he's that metamorphosis or what, I don't want to say effigy again. I'm trying to think of
He's
the culmination of all those people. Like whenever you,
he's like a distilled version of that.
Take a teacher, take a doctor, take a police officer, and put it into that person and how they would treat.
Because I was wondering if is this a racial thing? But he doesn't treat the other black kids any worse.
No.
He treats them better than he treats Zero. Zero's the only one he calls by his nickname.
Yes, and that's why I'm because he's got 0 IQ. I think that's what it's supposed to be. Is that is more of an analogy or a metaphor of how the system and the people within the system, right, look at those and Hector's.
You are literally nothing. You are 0.
He's reflecting, all the homeless kids out there that don't have an education, that don't have a family, and that's how those people in charge. Treat a person like that. I don't, other kids too, maybe they had families or they understand the rules, so they take their time, they fall in line, they do everything they're supposed to do, where 0 is not necessarily, he's kind of an outlier, right? He's always done early, doesn't say anything, he goes on, he doesn't show any emotion to what's happening.
Yeah.
And it also makes him an easy target.
I had this conversation with Megan when we watched the movie, and that it truly does feel like, and I feel like I've witnessed a degree of this before. It feels like people who are comfortable keeping to themselves, who keep their head down, show up, do their job, and then leave. It feels like there will always be somebody who finds that antagonistic in some way. They don't like that. They come across someone who keeps to themselves and they're like, I don't like that they're keeping to themselves. I don't like that they're quiet. They have some issue with that as a concept for whatever reason.
I've had that I've had that idea or thought before too, and I think what I normally come up on is that there is a level of not understanding which generates fear.
Yes.
Right? It's 1950s people looking out in space.
Yep.
They're having that existential crisis of just not knowing what's out there. It's what's behind that door, right? There are some people that are confident, understand themselves enough that it won't bug them. And then there's some people that get so much anxiety and fear riddled up that they can't handle it. And all of a sudden you're building irrational thoughts about it.
Why are you so quiet? What's wrong with you?
Yes. And that is I've witnessed that before. I mean, and everyone... you never know. It's there could be a kid that just fine. There could be a kid that needs some help. And you just don't know next actions, right? And I think that's what scares a lot of people with that is that you just have no idea what's going to occur next. And so you as a person start projecting and you get these irrational thoughts and all of a sudden and that's why I think Polanski also had an issue with him is because he's like, this dude could come around and just shoot up the whole place, and you kind of pick and poke trying to see all right, where do you stand? Because I can't mark you yet. And
I can't put you in a box,
right?
So therefore, I don't like you.
And that's where all the other kids, all of them assimilated to their environment. Hector was the only one that didn't, and that's why he had an issue with it. So I mean, multifaceted is a great way. I think there's plenty of things that you can pull from, which that's good character development and good story writing, right?
Yeah,
you're kind of pick and choose and just
that's a good segue into talking about the other kids in this movie, specifically their relationship with Stanley, which is one of the shakier elements of this movie, having rewatched it. I feel like they never justifiably become his friends.
No.
I feel like they're never the kids that
no.
I feel like their relationship never gets past mild amusement. It never feels once in this movie that they have a genuine friendship by the end of this film. It feels very forced to me. Especially when it comes to him in X-Ray. I find it very fascinating that he gets in a physical fight with Zigzag, yet I feel like X-Ray is the biggest problem that Stanley faces throughout a majority of this film. Because I feel like X-Ray is the one who kind of bullies him the most in terms of you find something interesting, you give it to me.
Well, he's been there the longest. It sets up a hierarchy within your own group, right? And he's assumed alpha male status. So There's I agree. The only thing that I guess I give a pass on is that I feel like he earned their respect with him stealing the car, and the conversations or the relationship building after that's never really shown.
No.
But there is, like, at that age group, you aren't going to talk your way into a friendship, but you certainly can earn the respect of, you know, your fellow guys.
Right.
And I think, like, that's where I go, all right, I think they all had a certain level of respect. Because, like, when they show him in the diner after he takes off, and they all talk about, like, what he did, and, you know, the fish story's starting to get bigger, and everyone's, like, really reflective on it.
Yeah.
And they're all
caveman had style.
Yeah. And, like, that's when, you know, you also go, like, hey, man, I misjudged the cover of that book. Right.
It's also, it is a little bit funny to me that they are talking the most positive about him when he's not there.
Well, it takes the action. Like, think about it. If he was Hector and swung the shovel and didn't take off, and they put him in the cooler,
right?
I think the same outcome would have happened.
Yeah,
he would have got out, and they're like, "Damn, bro! Like, that was, like, I can't believe you did that." Like, well, you know, and there's, like, that level of respect, and with him not being there, he earned it regardless. You know?
Yeah, I think I agree with you in that. Like, he does earn their respect. There is this level of, like, oh, you're the guys that I know the best, so therefore this is kind of where I'm going to orbit around, right? Is this group of kids?
Yeah, I mean,
I'm just saying that if I'm Stanley and I get the treasure, I'm not inviting those motherfuckers to a pool party. They can fuck off.
You know, that I guess it's just interesting because there's a group dynamic there. Because he was also, if he's Hector might say that. Right. Hector might not give a shit. I do think Stanley was trying to fit in. Like, I do think he was trying to earn their respect throughout that film. Like, if he had been more to himself or less cordial, or, like, throughout the whole film, he is trying to fit into the group. And I think that's some of, like, what the book kind of, you know, explores too, is just, like, your social setting and how you fit in.
Right. I can recognize there's a degree of, like, ball busting, obviously. Like, there's
I do think they treated him like shit. Don't get me wrong.
I was good. There's not enough of that dynamic to justify him being able to call them friends by the end of the movie. No.
And that's what I'm saying. Like, I'm curious, like, the part we don't see is what I'm curious about, I guess, is more so of in my head, there is a universe in which he comes back and they are all slapping hands and, like, you know, and, like, dude, you got us out of here. And he's like, I told you I would, you know, and, like, hey, like, you're the only, because he was a loner outside of that too, you know?
Yeah.
And
he seemed like a kid that kept to himself.
And sometimes just being in the setting or the environment you're in, you make do with what you got. So, you know, like, he was trying to fit in.
Yeah.
Get some respect.
Mm-hmm.
You get to, hey, that was awesome, you know, and all of a sudden, like, you're not one of the cool kids. Also, too, it's a movie, so I'm sure they were just like, we're all gonna have them at the house,
right? It's
trillions
like
of dollars.
When you're a kid watching this movie, you would ask questions of why they wouldn't be there if they didn't have them at the pool party,
or you ask questions about why is this guy inventing a foot odor remover called Splooge, and, like, didn't they have Bengay or, like, athletic spray? Like,
so let's talk about the logistics of this.
Okay,
so there's so many things I want to dive deep within just this lane of discussion alone.
Yep. Go for it.
So his father is an inventor.
Yes.
And he is trying to invent a cure for foot odor.
Yes.
It is ostensibly, at the very earliest, the 90s, maybe the 80s, in which this movie takes place, right?
I'm going to go 90s because I want to say the lawyer, like, had a cell phone or something.
Yeah. Ostensibly, they would have foot cream and lotions and things that could sprays, maybe.
John Madden endorsed Bengay.
That would be able to kill foot odor.
Yes.
In this way, specifically with athletes' foot odor.
Yes.
Like, oh yeah, we're trying to solve this thing. It's a cute little kind of idea for a kids movie.
Yes.
When you get older, this logic just does not hold up at all.
No.
He's, like, taking shoes. He's got them, like, hung up all over the apartment. He's, like, pressing on them with, like, these weird contraptions. there's like this almost like weird Rube Goldberg-esque shit going on in the house. With like,
it's bizarre.
Oh, I put the fucking shoes in the waffle maker. They turn over. They like fly over to this thing, and then they get paddled with like a fly swatter, and then that kills the odor. It's like, what? Okay. Do you have a job that makes money? Because I don't see this bringing in income.
Yeah, that's what. Yes.
And the landlord is threatening to evict them because the whole floor smells like stinky feet, according to him.
Right.
Which is like, I get that he's upset about the odor. My main concern would be like, how is Henry Winkler paying for this apartment when he's ostensibly unemployed? Grandpa's not working, and fucking his wife is just not doing anything else either. No. She's always there.
They're in the same garb, I think, every time they're in that apartment.
Yeah. It has the feel to me of like, yeah, we shot all of these scenes in a day, and they didn't change their clothes once.
Exactly.
Even though this is supposed to take place over like, what, a year or something?
Multiple months at least. I can't remember how long he was there for.
Right.
So I was also trying to pay attention to the timeline.
Yeah. And then I do love that. I say love ironically, by the way. It's so funny to me that when Stanley and Hector go up God's thumb and they find essentially the Garden of Eden in terms of this narrative, right? They find the onion patch, they eat the onions, they swim in the dirt water, and they lap it up like dogs, whatever. Totally unrelated. The father just figures out, oh, if I combine onions and peaches, I've cured foot odor. And it's like, you literally just put food in a shoe. Yes. Of course, these two things smell strong and are going to overpower whatever fucking odor is in this shoe.
Yeah.
Like, obviously, that's going to happen. It's like, they act like they just discovered a new form of gravity.
It's like the guy that found Reese's Pieces.
Right.
Like, you just combine two delicious things.
Yeah, it's exactly. And I find it funny that not only have they done that, but they also, alongside finding the treasure, were able to form this, like, this shoe, this foot odor spray company, whatever, where like the main ingredients are onions and peaches.
Yeah.
And they're able to market that and like make it into a business. It's like
successful. A
successful business. So don't worry if they run out of money from the treasure. They'll have plenty of passive income coming in from the royalties of Sweet Feet spray or whatever the fuck.
Fortunes change, right? Like that's what happens when you carry a Zeroni up a hill.
Yeah. You must carry Madame Zeroni up the mountain.
See, she says Madame Zeroni, right?
Yeah.
I don't know how the fuck they pass off the curse getting taken care of when she's dead. She said her. She didn't say just a Zeroni, right?
Right.
Like, how does that count? I don't know much about curses.
Do they turn zero into a madam in order to make this happen?
Well, this movie touched on a lot of different things.
Oh, wow. Very ahead of the curve.
Yeah. There's a little movie out there called Sleep Away that I think might have been ahead of its time.
In that regard, yes. I really have to pee.
That's too damn bad!
If only the woodpecker sigh. The bark from the tree was as soft as the sky. She looks to the skies, hungry and lonely. She cries to the moon, if only.
Is
top 5 Spotify, end of the year, guarantee. What were you going to ask?
Was that one of the things that you had to do at night to go to bed? Did that make its way into the...
Oh, yeah. Well, for sure made its way into the script reciting that young Kyle had in his bed alone at night when everyone else was asleep.
Recanting.
I would literally whisper the lines to myself from this movie, from other movies, TV shows, whatever I felt like reciting, because it was the closest thing I could get to rewatching it in the moment, I guess.
Yeah.
To dive into the psychology of why I formed that habit.
Well, if you love watching the movie,
I did love watching it,
and then you get to watch it all kind of go right in your vision as you recant the line.
Shall we talk about the kissin' Kate Barlow section of this film?
Sure.
Patricia Arquette, Really love her in this movie.
I thought she was great.
I thought she was fantastic.
Like, unrecognizable to me.
It's so funny because this was the first thing I had ever seen her in, but I never registered it was her because I'm a fucking little child.
She's also
How
not
could
in
I?
like a lot of...
Right. She's primarily an actress who's in like a lot of R-rated shit.
Yes.
Like, it's funny watching this movie after seeing Lost Highway, being like, oh, wow. You're doing like this. You're doing this great, like, friendly Southern Belle thing. And then you watch Lost Highway and it's like, oh, boy.
Yep.
You're in a predicament, aren't you? No, I thought she was great. Shout out to Sam, played by Gus from Psych, whose actual name I escapes me.
It's so funny too, because every time
Dule Hill,
I see him, like at my dad got on a big Psych kick. I don't know, maybe 5-10 years ago.
Yeah, people who are into that show are really into that.
Like they
show.
really like it, and I think that's how a lot of like sitcoms work. Or I don't even know if that's a sitcom. Kind of,
it's like a procedural comedy drama. Yeah. But
and every time, like, I remember Psych came out, had to have been 5-6 years after Holes came out. And I remember seeing Gus going like, hey, it's Sam. Mm-hmm. You know? Like, that's literally all I know him from is Psych and Holes.
Can I read you my favorite Letterboxd review of this movie?
Megan's?
No. It's quite the doozy. Let me get this here. This is from Jaxie, 5 stars.
Ooh.
Will someone tell Mr. I can fix that my pussy's broken?
Oh.
That is alongside That's Too Damn Bad. That is, I think, one of the more seminal lines of this movie is I can fix that. That alongside the other one. And it's funny because there's such juxtaposing lines that mean totally different things. That one is also, I think, within the like millennial zeitgeist of like, yeah, I can just pull this quote. I'll say that to anyone around my age and they'll know what I'm talking about.
Yeah. Yes. I that's a great, like, what from this film could you, like, if you're doing categories or whatever it's called, or Plant Pictionary or whatever, like what could you do that like within like 3 words someone would get it, right? Or like,
I could fix that. That's too damn bad. Well, excuse me.
Yes. Like how much more stuff's in there that is just kind of like fell into the zeitgeist of like common culture, right? With us growing up and like not shape, but
there's a little bit of an influence on the, I think, colloquialisms for sure.
Yeah.
Because like, it is just a fascinating thing of like how language works with like movies, especially. I feel like we were talking about Parks and Rec and The Office before. I feel like I don't say how the tables have turned anymore. I feel like I only say how the turntables.
Yeah.
Because of Michael Scott. And it's just like one of those things where it's like, yeah, this is like fixated something in my brain that will just never go away. I'm going to be like 85 years old in a nursing home going, that's too damn bad. Being the same age that guy was in that scene, probably.
Yeah. Meaning the same thing.
I have a question for you. Is that an older actor? Or is that the same actor in old age makeup?
I think it's the same actor, old age makeup. Because I did a little...
Because if that's the case, that's a really good fucking job that they did. Trout Walker is the character's name. Let me see if that's the case. Scott Plank. And there's no alternative actor that says as old Trout.
So what? Like, I love that we're gonna go examination on makeup, but
that's what this podcast is about: hyperfixation.
Exactly. Finding out the niche moments in these things and really fucking targeting them. No, so he goes in and well, my daddy owns the lake. He's making fun of that guy, and I was like, oh, I forgot how much of a like asshole that guy is.
Yeah, he's fucking thick.
Yeah,
gold tooth prick.
Well, and then they end up. He ends up catching up with her, I believe, right? When he's got
she's like on her last leg.
He's in makeup and that. So my memory as a kid and like seeing this was a totally random couple that
same.
found him, and like so.
I thought they were just like bandits after her.
Yes, and like you've just been chasing, ghosts, right?
Mm-hmm.
And watching, I was like, hey, that's the guy.
Yeah.
Like that's the first time I was like, all right. And then so like coming up to the old guy, I was like, I gotta see if they put him in makeup because I always thought that was a different dude.
Right.
And you can see like watching it, it's the same guy, but like phenomenal job.
Absolutely. Like one of the most underrated makeup jobs I feel like nobody talks about.
I always thought they just grabbed the guy that was on his deathbed. It was like, here's your last
I thought
paycheck.
they got like some really old fucker and just like, oh yeah, this is like the same character. Obviously it's a different actor.
Right.
It's like, no, this guy is in like one of the best makeup jobs I've ever seen for a scene that is literally 4 seconds long.
Yes.
It's insane.
Yeah,
absolutely crazy.
Not only is the line, but there's 2 unbelievable moments in that.
Not only does he look awesome, but he's got maybe one of the best line deliveries ever.
Yes, like 1000%. Yeah, no, phenomenal job, and that guy. Yeah, I really just didn't like him.
Yeah, they do stuff like that like astonishes me with how great it looks and how well it's held up after all these years. And then there are certain things like when they cut to Sam's poor dead mule, and it's like you kind of clearly tell that that's like a fake mule prop that they have. Like, all right, whatever. There's like the yellow spotted lizards are like the most egregious, and that they're like the most aged CGI special effects in this movie.
Really bad.
And what's funny is like, they interchange it with like using real. What are they like?
Bearded lizards,
bearded dragons.
Yeah, bearded dragons.
And where it's clear that they just like painted yellow spots on them, but they're real, so it adds to like the tension of the scene when they're in the pit and they're like
Jinxie's tail,
right? And they're crawling all over Hector and Stanley. But then when they're like jumping around, it's like, oh yeah, I'm watching the General commercial for car insurance.
Yeah,
it's like that same level of CGI.
That's another I guess on a technical aspect with this movie, like a little bit more of the props and the sets.
Yeah.
Sticking out, really resonating. The CGI with those lizards are atrocious.
Yeah.
Like very clearly can tell that, it's done over a green screen, or they just, digitally
superimposed.
Yes.
There's speaking of like sets and like sort of the immersion of the environment, I feel like they do mostly a good job with like establishing, this is like a deserted wasteland where they're like kind of, having to do manual labor in. There are a few scenes where it's like, I don't believe that this was filmed in a desert. Like, I feel like there's a scene where they're walking back to the huts, and I think Zigzag's talking about some shit, and you can literally see just like green grass in the background. Mm-hmm. It's like, oh, they just filmed this in like some fucking park or something. I don't know.
I did not look to see. I did not look up some of the trivia on this, but I guess maybe I just let it be buried down there with like how I remember it.
You just let it live in the moment.
Yeah, there's no real reason to go and discover. Like, we just find all this atrocious stuff that happened. Like, this is why Shia LaBeouf cracked.
Yeah. So when I was a kid, I had a major confusion with some of the characters and like who they were, who they weren't. So Stanley Yelnats' great no good, dirty, rotten, pig stealing great grandfather, as he refers to him as. You see a flashback of him trying to wed this woman, swoon this gal.
Yeah,
and she's gonna marry this guy because he's got the fat pig.
Yep.
And then so he does the whole thing where he takes the pig up the mountain because of Madame Zeroni's advice, and then pig gets fat, presents it to her. She's like, "I'm thinking of a number between 1 and 10." And then Madame Zeroni tells him to go to America. Her grandson lives there or something, implying that lineage. So I thought when I was a kid that Trout Walker was Stanley's great-great-grandfather who had moved from Europe to America. And I just thought, oh, he became like some dumb hick.
Yeah.
And then of course, like, obviously thinking back on it, like, that doesn't make any fucking sense. But they looked similar enough to me where as a kid I was like, Trout Walker and Stanley's great-great-grandfather.
Yes.
Like when he's young. I guess that also makes sense that you would call him Stanley because they have the same fucking name.
Sorry.
No, you're
That
good.
wasn't my point, though. I was trying to. I think I had the same. I thought Stanley's. Wait, hold on.
It was just like, as a kid, I was confused because I didn't understand that those
You
were
would
different people.
almost think that the guy carrying the pig would be Hector's grandpa, and that Trout Walker would be like Stanley. Like, that would be, to me, the most, because I was not even thinking that guy that came over, like, even now, thinking that's Stanley, because they don't. You think Stanley and that guy look alike?
I thought they did as a kid.
Okay.
I'm saying that within the context of me being a stupid little 9-year-old boy.
Well, you don't have to get down on yourself at that time.
Oh,
But
I get down on myself all the time now as a 30-year-old boy.
Keep away from the soap.
Right, exactly. Oh no, I've been so bad. Got to punish myself. There is. Where was I? Have no fucking clue where I was going with that now. My brain just like short circuited.
Well, you went over. You're talking about the confusion of the grandpa coming over. I am more so was confused with thinking it was Hector's grandpa,
and then
because I think they look more similar than Stanley and that guy.
And then they talk about how Kiss and Kate Barlow robbed Stanley's great-great-grandpa. And then it cuts to like an older version of him. Guy looks nothing like the young version.
Is not the same. There's no makeup. They just took a guy.
They're just like, let's get some like schlubby dude and have him try to be like Stanley Yelnats' great-great-grandfather.
Once again, like, paying more attention to this now than when I was a kid, and obviously having to discuss it, I wanted to see, like, all right, so if they made Trout Walker look, because I can't remember who they show first in the progression of like what happened, but I want to say they showed the Trout Walker robbery before they show the grandpa getting robbed by her, and I could be way off.
They show a flash of the great-great-grandfather being robbed at the beginning of the movie.
Yeah, who looks like Trout Walker with glasses on. If you watch it again, like, it looks like they just said, dude, you're doubling as everyone in this thing.
Right.
We're going to age you, and you're going to be Stanley's grandpa.
But I love that, like, so in the scene when, you know, he's presenting the pig, and he's like this handsome, young, strapping European boy.
He's
with
been
like
carrying a 100-pound pig up
Stan
a fucking
hair.
hill. Yeah.
And then, like, the next time you see his character that's supposed to be the same character, it's like, he fucking turned into John Lovitz. Like, what happened here?
Dude, it's not even him. Like, they just cameoed him. Like, yes, I agree. Because it's one of those things of like, yeah, I know people get old, but like, there should be some of the physical presence around him.
Yeah.
It literally looks like he took an accounting job and just sat at the office 12 hours a day.
Right. Like, gained like 50 pounds.
Yeah.
Didn't do it. Maybe lost like 4 inches of height.
That was the one that was egregious to me of like, okay, make it look somewhat similar, or even
that was crazy. That as a kid didn't help my confusion of like, okay, who is this supposed to be?
Well,
like,
I used to get confused thinking that guy was Zeroni's grandpa and being confused on like the whole hill character. Because I'm like,
why does he have Stanley Yelnats' treasure?
Yeah, I just did not. There's some of the lineage that goes on that's passed down that were shown through flashbacks with like they just don't look. They don't look comparable, and I guess as a kid you don't think about like, oh, he came over from Europe, and you know
that translation's a little rough, especially when you're a kid.
Yeah,
like that stuff's going to be 100% lost on you.
So I'm with you on that because I did not. That was one of the ones I just did not get that, and then I got really. It's sad. Stanley finds the treasure. It says Stanley Yelnats, right?
Mm-hmm. It's the same forwards as backwards.
Right. The S is like how Stanley Yelnats, right? The S in there looks like an E because of the dirt on there.
Uh-huh.
I thought that it was like a, what do you call those? Editing errors? What do you call those things? I can't. Anyways, I'm like, they fucked up his name. I rewound it 3 times and had to pause it and slow-mo it to get it to the exact spot, and I found out it's dirt over the S where that crease is at.
Yeah. That
made it look like an E.
Oh, damn.
Yeah, so that's where I kind of got to with the examination of this film on this viewing. It's a lot of not necessarily paying attention to the narrative, but like what
there's some very slapdashed like tone setting and details that could have I think, been a little bit more polished in a literal sense with the name on the treasure chest, but also in a sense of like filmmaking.
Yeah.
Because there's obviously like some sloppy ADR going on. There's like some cinematography that's very like kind of standard. What really kind of took me out was some of the music choices, especially when it's just kind of like stock music that feels very Disney. And, you know, we didn't mention this is a Disney movie.
Yes.
But there's just certain moments in this film where it's like, am I watching Stanley Yelnats struggling in the desert, or am I watching like a whimsical like Disney Mickey Mouse film with like this kind of like swooning, treacly score going on?
Yes.
I like the songs that are songs that feel like I could listen to them on Spotify. Like there's obviously like Dig 'em up on Dig It. And then of course like, you know, the other tracks that have like Moby whenever Sigourney Weaver's introduced. This was one of the first movie soundtracks I owned as a kid.
Really?
I remember having the actual physical CD and I could play it in my boombox radio. And I had a boombox radio as a kid. And I would play it and I would listen to the first track over and over again.
Dude, yeah, we used to get a catalog that you could order. This is like somewhat tangential.
Yeah, go for it.
You could order CDs from, right? And you could get 3 for $10.
Yeah.
Right. And the first, I want to say one of the first ones, and you can ask Sam. And I don't remember what the third one was, but I know we got the Twister soundtrack. Sam got the Braveheart soundtrack, and I think we got the Backstreet Boys, like We're Back album, or the Millennium album. Mm-hmm. Not the first one, but the second one that they released. So I know about buying soundtracks. I don't know. We might have been around the same age group. Like you bought it in 3rd grade, it sounds like. Or maybe it was 5th grade
my
when
parents
you got it.
definitely bought it for me, but...
Oh, you didn't pick... Oh. Well, maybe not. Sam did choose the Braveheart soundtrack. I want that to be known.
Well, now it's known. So,
if you ever get a chance on Spotify, if that's on there, give that one a listen. And
I'll give
see
it
what it's like.
I might give it a spin.
Just envision 8-year-old you listening to that.
Might fuck up my end of the year stats with my depressing shoegaze that I've got going on, but you know, whatever. I'm flexible.
It might help you out. Maybe we'll open up that Discover Weekly.
Yeah, right. It's like you got a new playlist going on.
Yeah,
it's made for you. It's
actually, like, you say like depressing ass music. Once again, we'll just put it in like a Gaelic sense.
Yeah,
you know. There you go. You get some bagpipes going with some low beat drums.
Gaelic melancholia.
Yes. Taking our land back.
Right. I do love that. I kind of want to talk about the end of this movie.
Of course, why not?
Why not?
Yeah,
we're kind of all over the place, but this movie kind of warrants some broader discussion.
It's a fucking. I was 13 when I saw it. It's commonly known. It's on the Disney Channel. Like we've seen it a million times.
So Stanley's lawyer shows up.
Yes.
And is like, hey, where the fuck is Stanley?
Yeah.
And Sigourney Weaver's like, we got to protect our kids. And then, you know, lawyer drives off. By the time she comes back, Stanley and Hector are in a hole filled with poisonous lizards.
Yes.
That if they bite them, they will die.
Yes.
Not could die, absolutely promise to perish.
Yep.
And I love that, you know, they're immune to it because they've been eating peaches and onions.
Yes,
peaches and onions seems to be like the MacGuffin cure-all for every situation.
It wasn't. It's just the onions.
Okay,
it wasn't the peaches and onions. That's where the dad got it right, and that's where they got it right. I guess the peaches don't really factor in, but there is a line. And I don't remember. It's not sure. I think it's like maybe Kissing Kate Barlow's timeline that they mentioned that those things, the scent of onions, you know.
I found it, by the way, another kind of sub-tangent. I love that when Sam is selling the onions to people, he goes to the guy who's bald and he's like, oh, just rub this on your head. Your hair will regrow. Buddy, if that worked, I would be swimming in onions right now. Let me tell you.
I need to go out there and see if you got any on the kitchen counter.
Right, yeah.
I guess
Max
what we're
just
doing
like
tonight.
Scrubbing his skull.
Yeah.
With some produce that's on the counter. But no, I love that, you know, they come out, the lizards disperse, they open up the treasure, it's got Stanley's name on it. Well, actually, no, they don't open it until they bring it back to Stanley's house.
Yeah.
But they've got the treasure, And I love that it's got his name on it, and so therefore it is his.
Yep.
And then the cops show up, and they're like, hey, you're Marion Seville. And he points to Mr. Sir. By the way, you're wanted, you're not a doctor, and you're running a child labor camp. You're all going to jail.
Yes.
And then all the kids like celebrate, and then it starts raining. It is like such a almost disgustingly storybook perfect ending, which I get like when I get when you're a kid that like, oh, you know, this ending makes sense because that's what it's been leading up to.
Right.
When you're an adult watching this movie, you're like, none of this would happen. Like the cops wouldn't just be like, you're all going to jail. Like there'd be an investigation, you know?
Like they are talking about the families and the kids being there and what she's doing. And I just remember like thinking as I want to say as the lawyers driving up, because they're all trying to cover their tracks. Like Hector can go. It doesn't matter. We can just burn the document. I'm like, holy shit. Like,
right.
They're just like, we're just discard the evidence he was ever here.
Hector was never here.
Yeah. There's no computer there. And then I'm just like, you're thinking like, what regulations are they breaking here? Like,
right.
Why is the judge knows Camp Green Lake by name?
Right.
Right? Like, what is...
Judge has to have some court records of like a Hector Zeroni being sent to Camp Green Lake.
How you can't
some like transcripts?
I
maybe.
really don't think you're gonna know Camp Green Lake as a judge and just know it by its name, right? So like, how much stuff is really happening here? And then so like, I'm thinking like, does this place make money? Do they get grants from the state? How much is...
I've got another question for you.
Okay.
So this is one thing that kind of bothered me that I almost forgot to bring up. So by the time Stanley gets to Camp Green Lake, it feels like Hector has been there for long enough for the kids to be shocked at the first time he speaks, right?
Right.
It feels like there's the sense of like, oh, Hector's been here for a while.
Yes.
Wouldn't they have been there for the same amount of time? Because Hector says, the next day I got busted for stealing shoes at a Payless.
I think that plays into the system. You
think they just like fast tracked his ass to Camp Green Lake?
You don't have parents. You can't read or write. Like, we've got to get you off the streets. It looks at Stanley and you go, family, let's look at the time frame. Like, honestly, and I don't know if they said how long each of them were going to be in there. I wouldn't be surprised if Hector got like a 4 or 5 year sentence and Stanley got 18 months. Mm-hmm. And if you look at the crime committed, stealing shoes, Stanley steals the World Series shoes. Like, it would be like, all right, you're 18 months, you're 5 years. Right? So
yeah, there's some like inequality going on.
I do remember as like being a kid thinking like that's weird. And now, like, just thinking about, like, if that's part of what they're playing into and trying to dive into, it wouldn't shock me if they picked him up and just said, we're fast-tracking you. We'll get you through. You're not going to have a lawyer. You're in jail. You're incarcerated. All right, we're going to have your arraignment after 3 days off to Camp Green Lake.
See, that to me makes a little more sense than what they do with Stanley, and that Stanley is... How old do you think he is in this movie? Like 15 at the oldest? Maybe 14?
I always thought 13, but it might have been just because I was 13.
Sure. You're going to take this minor, this actual legal minor, who first-time offender stole a pair of shoes, right? Sure, they're like a world-famous series athletes, former shoes.
You got it. Keep going.
Yeah, I'm falling down the stairs with my sentence, but I'm getting to a greater point.
Yes.
You're going to take this kid this is a first-time offender who is a minor, who is setting all like racial inequality stuff aside.
Right.
It's like, I don't think this kid would be serving 18 months in jail for stealing a pair of shoes. Because like, they don't really say what his sentence would be if he had chosen jail. They don't say like how long he would be in jail for if that was an option he picked. They just say 18 months Camp Green Lake or jail. So does that mean 18 months in jail also? Because if that's the case, that's a little excessive. But if it's also the case of 3 days in jail or 18 months Camp Green Lake, I'm sorry, I'm picking fucking jail. Like, even if it's a week, I'm picking that because at least I don't have to spend a year of my life somewhere else being miserable.
Just going off of it, it probably would have been longer. Because I think if you do some of like those work camps, they reduce sentences. So
you think Stanley
I don't
Yelnats, being a young little white boy who's a first-time offender who's 13, 14 years
Well,
old,
hold on.
would have spent like 2 years in jail.
Dude, the court system is you better have a lawyer that knows how to work around the legal system, and relationships help. So me with his poor ass with living off Social Security is another one. Get him off the streets.
I have a hard time reckoning with it.
If you look at,
if we're looking at like the extreme exaggerated example of this, sure.
No, I will pull up. I was just listening to that Sandlot episode, and we dropped the Justin Timberlake RIP, right?
Yeah.
He got hit with a DWI.
Mhm.
Dude, like I said, you have the right lawyer, you're paying the minimum fine, and you're getting the minimum hour, like, volunteer hours.
Yeah.
You don't have money and you represent yourself, you could go away for up to 3 years. Like that's what like the system that they're kind of exposing a little bit in this is like now.
I get it. Kind of makes sense in that like it takes place in a southern state. They're a little bit more harsh on like petty crime that way, I guess.
Dude, I think it's anywhere. I think if you go you go to California and you don't have a dime to your name, like look at the Big Lebowski. Like his ass, if he would have done something illegal, you don't have anyone to represent you. So it's like we're gonna go off of basically how can you defend yourself, right? Or what evidence do we have? Are you challenging this? Like some of that stuff can get messed up, and I don't think it would have been jail though. Like I think it would have been juvie.
Yeah, like some like youth program.
Yeah. But you know what this also actually reminds me of too is Nickel Boys with the reformative schools. Like a little bit
there's
of
obviously different tones entirely,
a
but
little bit.
there's some parallel theming.
Right?
Whether or not Holes gets as in depth with it as Nickel
I
Boys
don't
is a
think
different
they
story.
do, but like I said, like there is some of that reformative action that was taking place in the South, and you can see how the system deprives
lack of regulation.
Yes,
super abundant,
and that might have been something where this guy's like, "Hey, this is great. This will be like a undertone with this whole thing that no one will pick up on."
Right,
and it's just like you said, lack of regulation, people not really inspecting. Hey, you're doing the right thing, so here's some federal money or some state money. Keep up the camp because you keep those kids away.
Right. So to continue the through line of the end of this movie. It rains for the first time because they were saying throughout the film, like, oh, it hasn't rained here since the day they killed Sam.
Yep.
And finally rains because of this magical ending where Stanley wins the day and he gets to drive home with Hector and they get to share the treasure. I love that when they go home and they open the treasure chest, it literally looks like pirate's booty.
Yes.
It's got like fucking gold coins and like jewelry and like gems and diamonds.
What was the grandpa
and shit.
doing? That's what I want to know.
Right. Like
that
how did he get this material?
That got robbed.
Yeah.
It looks like he's just an innocent bystander, has all the stuff in his name.
He's got to have some like dark secrets, right?
Oh, definitely. Like he was
running like a brothel.
Embezzlement.
Yeah.
Like that's all I could think of is like he's got stocks in there. He's got like
Kevin K. Barlow was just trying to do good.
Yeah, I don't know about good. I think she just is like
I'm being cheeky, of course.
Agency of the Joker.
Right.
Like just don't care.
Yeah. Her mind may have cracked a little bit after they killed Sam, and then
they do a really good job of selling her loneliness, which I did not really pick up on.
Patricia Arquette, I think, does a lot of that heavy lifting too.
Oh yeah, it's and it's like I don't know if it's because like in the book I don't ever remember thinking like she felt lonely. Like I always pictured it's the first time she fell in love.
Yeah,
and it felt maybe kind of wrong for her at the time because of all the stuff going on. But like in the movie, I was like, man, she really does feel like she's just looking for a person.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
she's fucking great in this. Maybe one of the best performances in this movie. Yeah, she does a great job of that. I love her voice too. She's got such a unique voice.
Did you say Southern Belle was a very apt way of describing her?
Yeah, I feel like if you played me an audio recording of just her voice, didn't tell me who it was, I could guess it was her.
Yes, very recognizable. Especially, I mean, it leaves an imprint when you're at that young of an age.
Yeah,
you know,
absolutely. But they open up the treasure chest. It's got all this fucking pirate's booty and shit, and they're like, oh, there's like certificates of like $20,000, but it's worth millions now. It's that old.
That's what it was. It wasn't stocks. It was treasury certificates.
Yeah. And then I love how it goes from that to a nice little moment where Hector finds his mom, and then jumps from that to, they're swimming in the richest pool with like statues, and like they've got this big ass house. And guess what? Sweet Feet himself is hanging out with them, watching his own commercial.
Once again, that is something I also didn't get.
Like why is he here?
Why does that guy care?
Yeah.
Like he doesn't think he did anyone wrong. Maybe he did. I don't know. There's nothing that really is besides he's in this commercial with the guy that created this, like deodorant for your foot.
Oh, hey, I'm hanging out with the kid who in court I said he was no fan of mine after I thought he stole my shoes.
Boy, that one like stung deep too, because he looks right in the camera.
I was like,
I felt like he was attacking me.
Yeah, it was a little harsh, little fourth wall breaking. I've disappointed Sweet Feet myself.
Exactly.
Damn. Hits deep.
I will say that as a kid, I've never been more envious of a movie or like wanted to find a shooting star more in my life than after the end of that.
Yeah.
Like that is all you have to do is carry a kid up a fucking hill to get that lifestyle.
Yeah.
Like sign me up.
It was one of those movies where it really unlocks kind of like the whimsy imagination of a kid and going on an adventure, finding treasure, making friends, and having this journey along the way, going against these evil adults, and the kids win in the end. I really do think it is an effective piece of art in that way, where it can connect to a person of that age range in a very effective, valuable way. There's a reason why I hold this movie in such a valuable regard, even though I don't think it entirely holds up in every aspect. There's a lot of cracks that have shown in this last viewing for me. I really do think that there is something to be said about this movie and how resonant it is with our age group, and of course with kids growing up now who can watch this and take something from it as well.
Who did I think I had mentioned I had to watch Holes to someone else. Friend, I can't exactly remember who, but they even were like, "Oh, I love Holes." Like around like it's almost like when you say it, and they look back and you're like a little kid, and then it just swings the camera back and they're a little kid, like it felt like that moment of like, oh yeah, I remember being like in middle school, just being like, "Did you see Holes?" Yeah, it's a great piece of nostalgia, and it's also it's such a wholesome. I don't know if I want to use wholesome in the experience, not necessarily the movie's wholesome. Although it does,
there's some whimsy about it. Yeah,
it does right some wrongs though. Mm-hmm. I'm just saying wholesome, as in the sense of very soft. And
it's a soft movie.
It is, but there's some things that happen in here that are not wholesome.
Right.
Yes. And I don't know, like I guess you could say that the Trout Walker got his comeuppance. Probably going crazy digging holes, but it doesn't feel like he should. Someone should have walked up to that guy and just put a bullet in his head.
You kind of wish that Patricia Arquette had put one between his eyes. And that was the end of it. But.
Yeah, I got the kiss on the lips and he goes down from the poison. Something like, but I guess in the long sense of thing, losing your mind and just digging holes in a desert, searching for buried treasures. Probably not the best way to go out either.
Yeah, probably not. Was there anything else we wanted to talk about with Holes?
One thing for sure.
Okay.
So Preston, like I said, me and Preston watch it.
Yes, of course.
We had the, it's great, and I know that we've got like 6 people that listen, but it's awesome.
That's generous.
Yeah, on a daily basis or a weekly basis. No, but I mean, just being able to talk into this thing and get thoughts out, and actually think that this is something that could live on past me, right? And so if I'm ever gone or whatever, that he'll be able to look back on this, and if he ever wanted to hear my voice, could listen to this, So it's sentimental in that regard, and we're talking about it, and he remembered, because I told him that we were going to watch this movie to talk on the podcast, and remembered that. Hey Dad, you got your movie meeting. And we were talking about it, and I told him, I said, if you tell me what you like about it, or what your thoughts are on it, I will talk about it on the pod. So for Preston, his thoughts on it. Okay. Number 1, it was good.
Hell yeah.
Number 2.
About as nuanced as our discussions normally.
Yeah, right. Number 2, it was fun. Yeah.
Good and fun.
He
All
has
right, we're 2 for 2.
he has a hard time sitting through movies, right? And so it really warmed my heart when he watched The Sandlot, like start to finish. He was also, like I said, he was engrossed in this thing. There was a lot of conversation about very surface level things, not necessarily systematic oppression, and how
Hey, we're talking about that with your 8-year-old son.
No, I did throw that at Jasmine right before she teared up on when the just offhanded, like, yeah, I was the guy living in the tunnel. Like, okay. And then everyone he gets quiet and just walks away. But no, we did not talk about any of that stuff. But he was tripped up on the kid who got bit by a snake, and he kept wondering around.
It's an upsetting scene.
Well, it wasn't upsetting. He was very curious as to why did he want to run away. He did not get the sense that he was in this authoritative system, judicial, penalized system, right? And that he was in trouble and that was timeout, and he was trying to get out of timeout. Mm-hmm. So he kept asking, did the guy live? And if he did live, because I told him that they got the cure and they didn't have to chop off his foot, he said, does he have to go back? That was the big thing he wanted to know. And I said, I'm not sure. He might just stay in hospital until his time's up, or he has to go back. And he could not get onto that. So that was his, those were his 3 things. And then the other thing that this movie is, there's some dour things, lines that like you just don't really pay attention to because they're kind of throwaway lines. There's a point they're walking back and they're joking with Stanley about wishing, like, mom and dad, blah 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 blah. One kid goes, yeah, or Stanley says, like, it's gonna rain one day or I'll get out of here one day. And one kid just offbeat just says, yeah, maybe my dad will stop hitting my mom, and they just walk off screen. Like, that's just...
Yeah.
And I remember, like...
I think that's Squid who says that.
It is. Yeah, like the kid with the black hair.
Yep.
Yeah, and I just remember being like, oh my God. Like, how do I... You get... Like, if you're with your 12-year-old kid watching that thing, like, do you guys both look at each other? Like,
yeah.
What do you do? Like, boy, was that awkward for you?
Yeah.
Like, I just saw... I was like, man, like, I don't know if they're really trying to paint the picture of how bad these kids got it, but you got a swimming pool and a fountain at the end of this thing. Sweet Feet comes to life. They're billionaires. Why is that in there?
Right.
Like, I don't know. I didn't get it. And I just saw, I was like, oh, Jesus.
It kind of blindsides you. One thing I want to bring up, I almost forgot to bring this up before we get into our ratings. Are you pro or anti Twitch?
Oh God!
Because when that kid shows up, it's like, oof, I can't buy this little twerp.
He's ex machina or whatever. Deus ex machina.
He's not even. He doesn't have any bearing on the plot, so he's not a Deus ex machina. He
doesn't have any bearing on the plot.
He doesn't.
Doesn't he? He sets off the whole chain of events.
Twitch does.
Isn't he the kid that steals the car?
Yeah.
He gets Stanley over to the car and gets him in the car. Like, if he doesn't show up, none of anything else happens.
I got the sense that, like, Stanley was thinking about doing it anyway.
I think because that kid shows up, it puts it in his head, like, you steal cars, Mr. Sir has a car.
I feel like that's more heavy lifting that you're doing than the movie is, but I'm not gonna fight you.
I don't want to say, because it's also like an act of God, right? Like, this is just out of left field.
Sure, yes.
It's like, anyways,
I found him annoying, so I'm anti-Twitch.
Oh, you're anti-Twitch.
I didn't like his stupid little visor. I didn't like how he was hopping around everywhere.
You know what I also don't? Because I think I'm anti-Twitch too, because he reminds me of Benny from The Sandlot. And
interesting.
Like, I am like if Benny went the other way, that's him.
If Benny was like more annoying and hyperactive.
Oh, I mean, it's just like, hey, like, when Benny's 8, someone's like, hey man, we're gonna go steal Mr. Rob's, candy at the store.
Yeah.
And then there's also like the guy like, hey man, you ever see this baseball?
Right.
And he went to the baseball, but like, there's the other side of like, what would that universe look like had he stolen that candy bar? That's where I get to with him.
It's just the other characters had a level of groundedness to them where it's like, yeah, they have their dumb little gimmick, but at least they feel like real kids. And then he comes along and it's like, way too over the top cartoony for me. Like
MacGuffin, whatever you want to call it. Like he serves nothing there besides to start the chain of events. Like they don't set anything up besides him walking in being like, I steal cars. You should have saw the Jaguar that I stole, man. That's a nice car, blah, 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 blah.
I'm looking at him with like his fucking hat and like the way his hair is and like his demeanor. I don't believe him as a real kid that would exist. Like I don't buy it.
I mean, I've seen some of the saltier parts of the earth when I was younger. I definitely could see that.
I don't know. I wasn't buying it 100%.
He annoys the shit out of me.
He was fucking annoying.
He just talks about stealing cars, and then the next thing is they steal a car.
I wanted to kick him into space. Is what I wanted to do.
He's an annoying. It's not great.
No, not great. That was my final thought that I wanted to make sure we touched on.
Yeah, and that I guess I'll say it after we do ratings because it relates to friendship. I forgot I wanted to mention my theory on it.
Well, let's get into ratings.
Okay.
You want to go first?
Yes, I do want to go first because I came prepared for this. It was continuity errors, what I couldn't think of.
All right.
That was a while ago. What? Oh, that sucks.
What sucks?
A lot of the movies I saw when I was 15 to 20, like I rated on IMDb, so I always go off that score as like, this is what I really think of it. Like I'm not going to watch it again and be like, oh, I've changed my mind.
Right.
Even though I hold the right to change my opinion. I did not have this one rated.
Oh.
So this is actually a fresh rating for me.
Hell yeah.
And
breaking the seal.
Yeah, I'm going to go with could you imagine, let's just say you had a kid. Okay. It's 2003. You've got a 12-year-old. Okay.
Shadow of 9/11.
What are you, without having seen this thing? So like, take this experience because now you're of the age of where you're thinking about it critically, right? And you're bringing your kid there. Do you think you have the same thoughts now, seeing this for the first time on screen? And would this impact your rating had you not seen it when you were like in third grade?
Think the nostalgic factor for this movie does edge it into the positive realm for me. If I had not seen this movie and I watched it now without it being like a seminal childhood film for me,
yes,
I wouldn't have nearly as much affection for it.
Yeah.
That being said, because I was a kid and I watched this so many times.
Yes.
I can look at the details of this movie and like kind of the finer text of it and recognize after watching it so many times that there are genuinely good qualities about it that I like.
Yeah.
And I wouldn't have, I think, gotten that if I had just watched this for the first time now.
Yes. Okay. It was just interesting. I was thinking, like, what if me and P just threw that on for the first time?
If I had a kid and I had them watch the movie, would it be the worst thing I could ever show them? No, I don't think so.
Do you think, like, Preston will have this conversation about, like, a Minecraft movie when he's got a kid? Like,
maybe.
Like, he gets to be 35 and you're throwing that on again, and you're like, oh, man, I like this thing.
Yeah, when Minecraft is obsolete and Craft Mine has just come out.
Oh, yeah. Well, at that point, it's all AI movies anyways.
Oh, God, kill me. I don't want to live in this fucking world anymore, dude. I'm sick of this goddamn fucking bullshit. I just want it all to end. AI is taking over and everything's just ruined. No human expression is going to be permissible anymore. I just don't want to live on this planet. Anyway, let's get into ratings.
All right. Nice. See where Kyle's head's at. Might have dropped the star on holes.
I almost died today, Mac.
That is true.
You almost forgot.
I saw the car. It's in bad shape.
It was fucking wrecked beyond repair.
Yes.
I will include a picture of the horrific damage was taken upon me while I was driving.
And the person fled and got away.
Got away. Saddest shit you've ever heard.
Is there any justice in this world?
I fell on my knees in the middle of the street and raged against the Lord above.
Yeah.
Why have you forsaken me? Just like what Jim Caviezel said in Passion of the Christ. Father, why have you forsaken me? I said the same exact thing.
I saw
because it's a comparable event.
Person on the streets, and they said verbatim what you just said, that they witnessed you doing.
Yes.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. It was that insane.
Anyway, I'll include a picture of this. Might be not safe for work how horrific this crash is. So
I mean, I'd be careful posting it.
yeah, just
it's that bad.
Don't tell the YouTube algorithm that this image is taking place.
Well, yeah.
Anyway, Mac,
that
your
YouTube
rating
algorithm for doing our podcast
before I cry of PTSD again.
I think we keep saying nostalgia. It's gonna hold a place. Seminole. It's another great way. One of the first possibly impactful films on like actually dealing with some like emotions throughout a film, like invoking some of that, not watching T2 and just not knowing what's going on besides being kick-ass. The acting's fine, kids are fine. There's a little bit some deeper themes in this thing that I guess I'd never really recognized upon this viewing, and I really like that it's a dip your toe in the pool. It doesn't beat you over the head with it. It's light, it's gentle, it's digestible. There are some quality components of this thing that are not great. It is a little dated. This does feel like a straight to Disney movie now, as opposed to the time of being a wide release.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Like that's, I think where it kind of gets tripped up is that this thing was like wide release as opposed to like, hey, check this on after Even Stevens.
Right.
Yeah,
like, exactly.
Like you were talking about the ending being very whimsical and fantastical and just like cherry on the top. But with that being said, I'm not going to knock it like that. So I got it as an 8 out of 10.
All right.
I think Friendship on the hierarchy, though, was higher than this one.
Yeah, I don't disagree. Obviously, this being a nostalgic movie for me, this has kind of been the talking point of this whole discussion. Very good discussion that's gone on. A little bit long, but that's okay. You're gonna get a meaty episode. We might have to save questions for our next installment. This is a movie that will forever live within the better parts of my heart. I can be as objective with this movie as I want to be. Regardless of that, there will always be a place for this film in the classics of my memory. That having been said, there are a lot of shaky things about this film that just straight up do not age well. They don't hold up. Some sort of continuity confusion mixed with a little bit of the dated aspects of the technical stuff going on, like some of the music, a lot of the special effects. I think that this is overall a good movie to watch for kids. Specifically, I would say the age range of like 7 to 13, I think would be able to watch this film and take something valuable away from it.
Oh, yeah.
I think the performances in this movie are really good to great. I think that it is especially... It's a movie that I feel like has a lot more going on than just your average Disney Channel movie, but at the same time, it does have that kind of quality of like, yeah, maybe this was going straight to TV if it weren't for the fact that they were releasing it wide and it made an okay amount of money. So
did it? How much money did it make?
So against a 17 million budget, it made 71.4 million. So it wasn't like a smash hit,
right?
But it was big enough to, I would say, generate, VHS DVD sales. I'm sure they probably played it in syndication a lot on TV, if I were to guess, especially since Shia LaBeouf was huge at the time from Even Stevens. This movie to me is a text of my childhood, but a text that nonetheless has some issues. So I'm giving this a high 6 out of 10.
Oh, man. How far did that thing drop?
I had it at an 8.
Yeah.
So it was high, but it wasn't like, oh, wow, it wasn't like Sandlot level to me.
Hey,
Sandlot to me,
explain it to me,
is undeniable in that like that movie to me holds up really well. Not just with like the stuff I loved as a kid, but also just like looking back on it as an adult, being like, yeah, this is a genuinely great, well-made movie.
Yeah, the story, the ending is not fantastical or...
Sure, but the movie overall has a quality about it that I think surpasses Holes in a way that Holes has just never reached.
I'm saying straight line. So this isn't cherry on top, storybook, perfect bow tie.
Yeah.
Here you go. Like the Sandlot, like those kids, they talk about it. I mean, half the kids don't make it. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's a very realistic look on like, hey, we're going to give you everything.
Bertram got lost in the 70s, and no one's ever heard from him since.
That's what I'm saying. So yeah, 6 out.
6 out of 10.
Okay.
One more bit of business. We had some questions, but we do not have time to get to them.
God, that's why everyone stops asking questions because
Yeah, I know.
we get to like.
I wonder why nobody leaves anything for us, and then there's episodes where we just don't do it. We'll save it for episode 97, which is crazy that we're coming up to that.
Oh wow, yeah.
You got a recommendation to make.
I do have a recommendation to make. I had one I put on here, and then I got another one that's a little bit possibly deeper to talk about. Oh, I know what we can do. I just had a thought.
That is insane. That never happens on the Neon Crew.
Well, not with this guy. And we could also pair it up with a movie I think that just got released, and it's one that I actually think about bringing Preston to.
Okay.
I don't know if you've seen this movie or not. You may or may not have. Kind of a kid's movie.
Okay. Keeping it within that realm.
Yeah, a little bit of fighting.
Oh.
You know where I'm going?
I have no fucking clue where you're going.
The Karate Kid. We'll watch the 80s Karate Kid. The
Oh.
original Karate Kid. And I think we can pair it up with the new Karate
The
Kid.
Karate Kid. Yeah. Is the new one called Karate Kid?
It's something along
Because there's
those...
the Jaden Smith, the Karate Kid.
No, that one doesn't exist. That one never happened.
That one's extra credit.
Isn't Jackie Chan in that too? He's in this new
Yeah.
one too.
Karate Kid Legends?
Yes,
Is that what you're talking about? That's the new one.
2025?
Yes.
Yes, I have seen this trailer in every new movie I've gone to for the last 3 months.
Okay.
And I have switched my frame of thinking, being like, this looks like trash, to let's try to enjoy it. Let's
All right.
enjoy it. Let's see. And then maybe it's actually good, but I can also bring Preston to a movie now.
A franchise that I am woefully just unfamiliar with.
You have not seen the original then?
I have not seen the original. I haven't seen any.
That's what I'm looking for.
I haven't seen any Karate Kid related property ever. Like,
Hell yes.
it is so far away from me.
Original content right here. There you go. You got it 2 weeks from now.
All right. Adding that one to my watch list and adding Karate Kid Legends to my watch list.
Yes. What a perfect pairing. I can show the kid both too.
All right, cool. Let me look up the original so I can get some info on it. So if you guys don't want to be spoiled for The Karate Kid, directed by John G. Avildsen, quite the name, as well as Karate Kid Legends, directed by Jonathan Entwistle. These are made-up names where the letters were just pulled out of a hat.
AI.
Be sure to... Really did not like that. Be sure to check those movies out before episode 97. Thank you guys so much for listening to this episode of the Neon Crew Podcast. You can find us on YouTube, Spotify, and Apple Podcasts. Be sure to subscribe to the YouTube channel and give us some 5-star ratings on Spotify and Apple Podcasts if you haven't already. Check out our merch on Etsy. I am just stumbling over my words. Check out our merch on our Etsy page. You'll find that in the description below, as well as pages to our friend Gideon, who did our music, and our friend Lauren, who did our artwork. Yeah, I think that is it. We're coming up on episode 100, and we're in the middle of deliberating what we want to do for it. There's been some discussions. I'm not going to get into the finer details just yet, but we're cooking up some ideas to do something special, potentially. So that's all I'll say about it for now.
Hell yeah.
And Mac, what do we say at the end of this long journey that we've dug into?
WWTHD!
Bye, everyone.